Chapter 169. Jiang Xi had disappeared for more than a year. Jiang Sheng was very concerned about Jiang Daodu. After all, he was her martial arts teacher and treated Jiang Daodu as his own child. Ever since the news of Jiang Xi's disappearance spread throughout the martial arts world, he would take time to visit Jiang Xi's house every day to check on Jiang Daodu. He was worried that the little girl would do something stupid because of this. Jiang Daodu did not like it at first. She hated it when people other than Jiang Xi cared about her. But she knew that this was the concern of an elder. Slowly she got used to it. On this day, Jiang Daodu was practicing in the underground practice room. When the doorbell rang, she showed a helpless expression. She knew that Uncle Jiang was here again. When she opened the door, she found that it was not Jiang Sheng but Jiang Wei. "Where's Uncle Jiang?" Uncle Jiang was seriously injured last night. "He's in the hospital now." Jiang Wei's expression was a little ugly. "Take me to see him." Jiang Daodu's expression turned cold. She closed the door and rushed to the hospital with Jiang Wei. She had grown a lot in this year and was less willful. On the way to the hospital, Jiang Wei drove. Jiang Daodu sat in the back and frowned. How did Uncle Jiang get injured? She felt that something was wrong. Jiang Sheng was a D-class martial artist and a law enforcer. The possibility of him getting injured in Pak Sun province was very low. Uncle Jiang was leading a team on a mission last night when he was attacked. If he did not meet the deputy head of Tsukushin Budokan, he might have died. Where's the attacker? He committed suicide. Suicide soldiers. The feeling that something was wrong in Jiang Daodu's heart grew stronger and stronger. Be careful. Suddenly Jiang Daodu sensed a dangerous aura approaching at an extremely fast speed. Whoosh! A high-explosive bomb that could kill a D-class martial artist came from a tall building in the distance and hit their car. Boom! Boom! There was a huge explosion on the street. The pedestrians panicked and screamed as they fled in all directions. A petite figure carrying a person jumped out from the explosion and landed on the side of the street. Leaning against the wall, "Stand behind me." Jiang Dudu shielded Jiang Wei behind her. Daodu is the same as Jiang Xi. She's also an expert. Jiang Wei cut a sorry figure. More than half of his hair was burnt. He was shocked and scared. If it wasn't for Jiang Dudu's timely palm strike to disperse the deadly shockwave caused by the explosion, he might have died. Jiang Dudu held a dagger in her hand and cautiously looked around at the panicking crowd. Suddenly, 3 cold lights shot out from the panicked crowd. With a speed close to the speed of sound, it arrived in front of them almost instantly. "You're courting death," Jiang Dudu shouted coldly. The petite figure flickered in the narrow area. At the same time, he continuously brandished his dagger. Puff! Puff! 3 soft sounds were heard. The 3 C-class martial artists clutched their necks and fell to the ground with an expression of disbelief. In an instant, Jiang Daodu severed their necks. This was the strength of a top-notch C-class martial artist. "Daodu, be careful!" Jiang Wei exclaimed. He saw a pedestrian who was fleeing in a panic suddenly stab at them, while they were facing the 3 attackers. The speed of the sword was so fast that it was impossible to guard against it. Jiang Dudu didn't even think and quickly dodged. Chi! The blade finally pierced through her left shoulder. It was only 2 or 3 centimeters away from her heart. Scram! Jiang Dudu was furious and swung her dagger. The head of the attacker flew into the sky. The battle came quickly and ended quickly. The police siren sounded and the law enforcement team arrived immediately. They quickly cleared the area and the panicked pedestrians were sent to other places. The danger was over. On this day, He Chongqing, the president of Kitasamfu Martial Artists Association, and Chen Yuan, the president of Zhenten Budokan in Pak Sun province, as well as the vice president Lu Shan, were all furious. The Law Enforcement Bureau of Pak Sun province was mobilized and investigated all the martial artists with criminal records in Pak Sun province. Many criminals were caught because of this. For a time, the martial arts world in Pak Sun province was in a state of panic. Xia country. Ma family of Chang'e. Ma Jinhai looked at his 36th wife coldly. "Who told you to do this?" Hu Zhen pretended to be confused. "I don't understand what you are talking about." Last night, the law enforcement team of Pak Sun province was attacked. There were 2 men of sacrifice from the Ma family at the scene. This morning there was an explosion in Pak Sun province. There were 4 men of sacrifice from the Ma family at the scene. Ma Jinhai's face was gloomy. The men of sacrifice of the Ma family could only be mobilized by the family head. Hu Zhen was silent for a while, then suddenly shouted, "Can't I avenge Xiaoyu? If you don't do it, can't I do it?" She was a little hysterical. Stupid. Ma Jinhai did not want to talk to her anymore. He turned and left. After taking a few steps, he stopped and said coldly, "From today onwards, if I find out that you do it without permission again, your current treatment will be revoked." After saying that, he left without looking back. Hu Zhen looked at his back and cursed him for being a coward. Then she turned her gaze in the direction of Pak Sun province and sneered, "Count yourselves lucky. There won't be a chance like this next time." She did not take Ma Jinhai's words to heart. So what if she was treated as the matriarch of the Ma family? Hu Zhen knew very well that with Ma Yu dead, she, as the matriarch of the Ma family, was just a decoration. In order to ensure the continuation of the Ma family, Ma Jinhai married 3 more wives within this year. There would definitely be more in the future. New Moon Year 95, February 2nd. Sky Tower, Space of Inheritance. Jiang Xi sat cross-legged in front of Lingwan Road. His eyes were shining. "I have mastered all 9 levels of the Wind God's escape technique. I will definitely succeed this time." Then he said in his heart, "Use the Wind God's escape technique to deduce once." Deduction failed. The experience bar notification sounded at the same time. His experience bar decreased by 10,000 points. What the fuck? Jiang Xi's eyes twitched. He held back his anger. It was like he had finally gathered all 7 Dragon Balls. In the end, he was told that he had failed to summon the Dragon God. He had spent a whole year and a month here. He was going crazy from boredom. "Fine. I don't believe it. Use the Wind God's escape technique to deduce once." Deduction failed. 10 times in a row. It was as if he had been cheated for 10 consecutive draws. 100,000 experience bar was gone. Jiang Xi's face darkened. He looked at his experience bar. Experience bar. 182585, he could deduce another 18 times. Again. Use the Wind God's escape technique to deduce once. Deduction successful. You have comprehended the true meaning of Gale. Experience bar plus 100,000. The experience bar has been updated. Please check it in time. There were 3 consecutive notifications on the interface. Jiang Xi was stunned. He succeeded. The true meaning of Gale. But before he could be surprised, his spiritual sense fell into emptiness. In a trance, his spiritual sense seemed to be connected to something, and the distance between heaven and earth was closer. Especially the wind. There was originally no wind in this space of inheritance. But at this time wisps of breeze appeared around Jiang Xi and kept circling. The breeze that was like the end of green duckweed gradually turned into a gale, then a gale, and it became faster and faster. The gale whistled. Chapter 170. In the Tongtian Building's inheritance space. When the wind blew, the top of the second section of Lingwan Road, which was built with white jade, emitted beams of colorful light. Finally, they converged into a faintly discernible figure of a lady. The lady was like a fairy from a painting. She wore a rainbow-colored feather dress and descended with the wind. She took light steps and walked in front of Jiang Xi, who was comprehending the true intent of Gale. Then she curiously observed Jiang Xi's appearance. "You look so ordinary. Why did you suddenly comprehend it? Seems like you have quite a big secret." Suddenly the gale dissipated. Jiang Xi woke up from his trance and saw the lady in front of him, who he instinctively dodged but did not control his speed well. He was gone 10 kilometers away. Riverward's expression was stunned. His speed just now was too fast, and he did not use much strength. With a thought he appeared here like a gale. "Hey, why are you running?" Just as Jiang Xi was stunned, a beam of light appeared in front of him. The lady appeared again. "Are you a human or a ghost?" Jiang Xi asked an old question. It was also the most reasonable question under such circumstances. "Ha, I'm a ghost." "Awu, awu." Instantly, the lady turned into a green-faced ghost with fangs. She opened her bloody mouth. "If you didn't make 2 awu sounds, I would really believe it. You're the spirit of the illusion?" After Zhang Xi calmed down, he guessed the lady's identity. Boring. The lady turned back from her green-faced and fangs. She was not extremely beautiful, but she was pleasing to the eye and unforgettable. I'm Aishang, the spirit of the illusion here. You passed the inheritance trial, so I can come out to meet you, she said with a smile. First of all, congratulations, Zhang Xi. You used 1 year and 28 days to comprehend the Jade Lake's inheritance, true intent of Gale. This result is ranked 9th in the history of Lingwan Road. Is there a reward? No, the Jade Pool has been abandoned for many years. If it was 100,000 years ago, with your talent, the Jade Pool would definitely focus on nurturing you. If nothing goes wrong, you might have a chance to touch the immortal path. Aishang's expression was very gloomy. River Word, however, was incomparably shocked. Aishang's words revealed too much shocking information. The Jade Lake had been abandoned for many years. 100,000 years ago. Immortal Tao. Big Sister Nikhang, the immortal Tao? Could there really be immortals? Or are you an immortal? Zhang Xi suppressed the shock in his heart and hurriedly asked. Haha. Aishang was amused by Zhang Xi's words and laughed. I'm not an immortal. I don't know if there are still immortals. When I was born, there were no immortals in the Jade Pool, but there were always legends of the immortal path. Aishang smiled. Zhang Xi was silent for a long time before he completely digested the information contained in this sentence. What he could confirm was that Aishang was neither an immortal nor a human. Alright, you're just a small cultivator who hasn't even formed a golden core. Don't think about this. If there really are immortals, you're not even an ant in front of them. Zhang Xi realized that this sister was really good at mocking people. However, what was a golden core? It sounded like something from a Xianxia novel. Sister Aishang, what's a golden core? Has the orthodoxy of the human world declined to such a state? You've already formed a spirit, but you don't even know what a golden core is? Aishang was very surprised. Zhang Xi shook his head. Alright, the ignorant are fearless. No wonder you little fellows who haven't even reached the golden core stage have the guts to enter the Jade Pool. Aishang was a little speechless. Then she explained, in the path of cultivation, you can only be considered a cultivator after forming your spiritual consciousness. Spirit formation, golden core, nascent soul, essence soul, and Tao integration are the 5 stages of cultivation. You've just entered the spirit formation stage. If it were in the past, you wouldn't even be qualified to enter the Jade Pool. These words made Zhang Xi speechless. So, before the spirit formation stage, he couldn't even be considered a cultivator. However, he wasn't frightened by Aishang's words. With the experience points panel, as long as he had enough time and experience points, he could fight his way up no matter how high the stage was. At this moment, Aishang changed the topic and said with a smile, but speaking of which, you little fellows have top-notch talent and comprehension. Especially the one called Xiantian. He's the one with the best comprehension ability among all of you. Even without the help of any inheritance, he managed to comprehend the pinnacle of saber true intent. If it were 100,000 years ago, he would have definitely become a saint of some orthodoxy. Unfortunately, he's not suitable for the Jade Pool's wind inheritance. Otherwise, the sword intent of Gale wouldn't be yours. Zhang Xi was silent. This sister's dictionary didn't have the word tactful. However, the sword intent that Aishang mentioned made Zhang Xi very interested. It turned out that the shocking sword intent that Xiantian displayed previously was the sword intent. Sister Aishang, what's the sword intent? I can't explain it clearly because I'm only an artifact spirit and can't comprehend these. In short, it's related to Tao. Under normal circumstances, if a golden core cultivator can comprehend the Tao intent, he's already considered a genius. Those who can comprehend the Tao intent in the spirit formation stage are few and far between. That's why I said that Xiantian's comprehension is better than yours. Aishang chuckled. Tao. It's getting more and more mysterious. Zhang Xi remembered this word in his heart. As for Aishang saying that Xiantian's comprehension was better than his, Zhang Xi smiled. Xiantian was the #1 person in the Spirit Qi revival era. Zhang Xi just smiled. How could it be a joke? He was not jealous because his path was different from Xiantian's. Aishang nodded secretly, admiring Zhang Xi's character very much. She knew that she did not find the wrong person for this legacy. Next, Zhang Xi asked Anaishang many questions about cultivation. For example, the difference between the sword intent and gale intent, the cultivation method of golden core, and so on. Anaishang answered him one by one, allowing him to gain a lot. After a long time, Zhang Xi suddenly lost interest in chatting. Sister Anaishang, if there's nothing else, I'll leave now. He had more or less understood what he needed to know. There was nothing to be reluctant to leave here, so he might as well go back. After leaving home for more than a year, he was especially homesick now. His longing and worry for Jiangdudu also became even stronger. Alright, but you have to remember that when your essence spirit condenses, you must make a trip here again. At that time there'll be a big gift for you. Anaishang reminded. Oh, can't you give it to me now? Zhang Xi's eyes lit up. No. With your current strength you can't control it yet. It'll be harmful instead. Anaishang shook her head. Then she waved her sleeves, and a passage appeared in front of Zhang Xi. It was exactly the same as the trial passage when he first came in. Zhang Xi waved and walked into the passage. Goodbye, Sister Anaishang. Goodbye. After Zhang Xi left, the entrance also disappeared. Anaishang sighed. Sister Feng, there's finally someone who comprehended your legacy. But where are you now? With a faint voice, she turned into a five-colored light again and disappeared in the inheritance space. At the same time, the heaven-reaching tower that had existed for many years slowly disappeared into the fog of the jade pool. Oh. Chapter 171. At the lake at the summit of Mount Tongtian, near the entrance of the Jade Lake, there was a new military camp. This military camp was jointly built by the military of Xia Kingdom and Jinten Budokan. Its purpose was to guard everything in the Jade Pool's secret realm. Of course, the most important thing was to prevent anyone from discovering the entrance to the Jade Pool. In the sentry post by the lake, a military martial artist who was monitoring the lake suddenly changed his expression and quickly sounded the alarm. Attention all units, attention all units. There is an abnormal situation on the lake. There is an abnormal situation on the lake. Swoosh, swoosh. Two A-level martial artists from the military of Xia Kingdom, and Jinten Budokan arrived at the same time. The A-level martial artist from Jinten Budokan was Zhang Xi's teacher in the training camp, Yu Lin. The military martial artists stationed here also quickly gathered and were ready for battle. They stared at the lake closely. A ripple grew bigger and bigger and eventually formed a whirlpool. Swoosh! A figure rolled up the whirlpool and broke out of the water, then landed lightly by the lake. This person's long hair covered his face, and his face was full of curly beard. He looked very sloppy. Who are you? Yu Lin shouted, and his long sword was ready to attack. Teacher, you don't even recognize me? Zhang Xi, Yu Lin exclaimed, but he did not let down his guard. Zhang Xi shook his head and smiled. He waved his hand and used his spiritual power to clean his long hair and beard that he had not cut for more than a year. At this time Yu Lin really let down his guard. Then his eyes quickly filled with tears. As he cried, he laughed heartily. I knew it. I knew it. You Zhang Xi won't die so easily. Yu Lin had taken the initiative to apply to be stationed in the Jade Pool's secret realm. Otherwise, with his strength, it would be a waste of talent to be stationed here. It was because he did not believe that Zhang Xi was dead. Now the facts proved that he was right. Zhang Xi was really not dead. At the lakeside, other than Yu Lin who was laughing, the other military martial artists from the Great Xia Kingdom, and the Jinten Budokan martial artists were all stunned by this scene in the past 6 months. The biggest news in the global martial arts world was the death of the fifth elder of Jinten Budokan, Zhang Xi. But now, Riverward had given them a live performance of a living person. Teacher, long time no see. Zhang Xi waited for Yu Lin to laugh for a while before he said with a smile. Haha, good as long as you're alive. Yu Lin was still very excited. Then he suddenly reacted and shook his head. I won't take up any more of your time. Let's go home and take a look. There's a transport plane outside Death Valley. Teacher, let's talk again next time. Zhang Xi nodded and left quickly. He didn't hide his speed. His figure flashed, and a gust of wind blew past, instantly disappearing from the military camp. So fast. Yulin and the other Class A martial artists looked at each other in astonishment. With this speed, if he wanted to kill them, it would only take one move. Quick! Spread the news. Haha, the martial arts world is going to be lively again. After regaining his senses, Yulin laughed heartily again. One of them notified the Genten Budokan, while the other notified the higher-ups of the Great Xia Kingdom's military. Xintian City. After listening to White Cloud's report, Xintian also laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, this kid always does things that surprise people. How did he survive for a year and a month? He must have encountered something that we didn't expect. White Cloud laughed. Wind Shadow Steps, it must be the Wind Shadow Steps. Xintian said decisively. White Cloud nodded and agreed with this guess. Then he said hesitantly, Teacher, there's one more thing. Jiang Xi has returned to Paksun province. Isn't it normal to go home? But yesterday Jiang Xi's sister and his teacher were attacked and almost lost their lives. What is Chen Yuan doing? Xintian frowned. He hadn't heard of this yet. The opponents were all men of sacrifice. Chen Yuan couldn't be on guard all the time. White Cloud shook his head. Xintian knew that this matter couldn't be blamed on Chen Yuan. He asked again, Did you find out who was behind this? The Ma family of Cheng. White Cloud said in a serious tone. Xintian instantly understood. Jiang Xi had killed the only son of the Ma family. With this layer of hatred, it was not difficult to understand why the other party would attack. He thought for a while and suddenly laughed. I've always wanted to test the waters of the reclusive families. This time let Jiang Xi make a scene. You go to Chang'an and guard it first. If they attack Jiang Xi, you can come out. White Cloud smiled. He liked to join in the fun. In a secret place in Shuntian Prefecture of the Great Xia Empire, Huang Kuan laughed heartily after receiving the news that Jiang Xi was still alive. At the same time, he also heard about what the Ma family had done. He was silent for a while and said to the guard beside him, With this kind of hatred, maybe Jiang Xi will attack. Get me a call from the Qin family. I want to invite Qin Qi to Chang'an. Only he can protect Jiang Xi. Xintian and Huang Kuan's arrangement had one thing in common. In their opinion, Jiang Xi's strength was far inferior to the Ma family. Therefore, they sent someone to protect Jiang Xi's life. At this time, Jiang Xi was on a transport plane back to Paksun province. As soon as he took off, he used his tactical communications watch to call Zhang Daodu. Daodu will definitely scold me. Jiang Xi thought to himself, if she wants to scold me, then so be it. It's my fault for standing her up. He said he would be back soon, but in the end he disappeared for more than a year and a month. The call was picked up after a long time. Zhang Daodu's virtual shadow appeared in front of him. Then a sobbing voice came through. Liar, you big liar. Zhang Daodu just cried and kept repeating this sentence. This made Jiang Xi's heart ache. After a long time, the crying subsided. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Jiang Xi apologized honestly. Then hurry up and go home. Zhang Daodu was surprisingly understanding. I'll be home in 10 minutes. So fast. Yes. Suddenly, Zhang Daodu's virtual shadow disappeared. Jiang Xi didn't say anything and just shook his head. He had some doubts in his heart. He just noticed that Zhang Daodu's tone seemed to be a little weak. However, he couldn't find out the specific situation through the virtual shadow. Anyway, I'll be able to see her in 10 minutes. Jiang Xi threw his doubts aside, closed his eyes to rest, and secretly opened the experience panel. Cultivation. Spirit Nurture Early Stage 2700152800. Cultivation Technique. 5 Elements Deed of Thorough Comprehension. Peacock Visualization Martial Technique. 9 Element Sword Technique. Combine 300,003,0000. Wind God Escape. Level 9900,009,0000. Dao Art Gale True Intent 1. 5 million. Amplitude. 1 Deduction. 10,000 experience points per time experience points. 272585 on the panel, there was a new Dao art column. This made Jiang Xi confirm that it was like what Spirit of the Illusion Nick Hang said. True Intent was indeed related to the so-called Dao. Gale True Intent requires 500,000 experience points to be perfected. There's still a long way to go. Of course, the benefits brought by the high difficulty level were obvious. Just the preliminary comprehension of the Gale true intent had already made a qualitative leap in his strength. Chapter 172. Spirit Nurturing Stage. Zhang Xi was confident that if he was given more time, he would not be afraid of anyone other than Xian Tian. The reason why he excluded Xian Tian was very simple. According to an Aishang, Xian Tian had already comprehended the saber intent, which was one grade higher than the Gale intent. In terms of combat power, Zhang Xi was not confident that he could defeat Xian Tian. Of course, although Xian Tian's saber intent was strong, Zhang Xi was not inferior to him. That was because the Gale intent was good at speed. In terms of speed, Zhang Xi believed that no one on earth could beat him. In the past, Li Baibai was the fastest in the world. Now it was him. Pak Sun Province, Jintan Budokan. It was a similar scene. Chen Yuan and Lu Shan arrived at the plaza in front of the three huge buildings at their fastest speed. When they arrived, Jiang Dudu was already waiting there. This time there were only the three of them. Because of the sudden incident, they did not have time to inform the others. Even if they had informed them, they would not be able to make it in 10 minutes. Jiang Dudu was more sensible than before. She nodded at Chen Yuan and Lu Shan as a greeting. Then, she stood quietly in the plaza and waited without saying anything. She deliberately wore a black windbreaker to hide the injury on her left shoulder. Chen Yuan and Lu Shan looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They also felt guilty and did not know how to explain to Zhang Xi later. They had promised to protect Jiang Dudu, but in the end they still let Jiang Dudu get injured. In just a short while, a stream of light flashed across the sky. A transport plane flew over at high speed and landed in the plaza. He's here. Their expressions became serious as they welcomed him together with Jiang Dudu. The door of the transport plane opened, and Zhang Xi walked out with a smile. Whoosh! Jiang Dudu's eyes were red. She did not hide her strength. In a flash, she rushed in front of Zhang Xi and hugged him tightly. Then she bit down. The sharp pain in his left shoulder made Zhang Xi grimace. He did not use his spiritual energy to defend himself. Otherwise, he would have broken Jiang Dudu's teeth after a while. Jiang Dudu finally relented. With tears on her face, she mumbled, "Why didn't you say it hurt?" "It doesn't hurt. Sweet." Zhang Xi grinned. "It would be strange if it didn't hurt." "You don't feel pain, but I do." Jiang Dudu snorted. Zhang Xi smiled, then grabbed her left hand and looked at Chen Yuan and Lu Shan, who were not far away. Just as he was about to walk over to speak, he took a step forward. He then heard Zhang Dudu's barely detectable groan of pain. Zhang Xi looked over in confusion and immediately discovered the difference. Jiang Dudu never wore a black windbreaker before, nor did she use any cosmetics. But now, not only did Jiang Dudu wear a thick windbreaker, but she also smeared something on her face to cover her original complexion. Logically speaking, with his observant nature, he should have been able to discover these differences at the first moment. Because Jiang Dudu had taken the initiative to throw herself at him just now, he did not have time to observe. "You're injured?" Zhang Xi's face darkened. "No." Jiang Dudu hurriedly shook her head. "Don't lie to me." Zhang Xi scanned with his spiritual sense and found that Jiang Dudu's aura was unstable, and there was a near-fatal wound on her left shoulder. "Who is it?" Zhang Xi turned his gaze to Chen Yuan and Lu Shan. He exuded a shocking chill, which instantly enveloped the two, making them feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave. Chen Yuan and Lu Shan were horrified. Now Zhang Xi had crushed them in strength. He was very strong. The feeling Zhang Xi gave them was the same feeling they felt from Xian Tian when they went to the headquarters to meet Xian Tian. They looked at each other and smiled bitterly, not daring to hide anything. Because with Zhang Xi's identity and status, he would find out later. Once they concealed it, they would offend Zhang Xi. It was Hu Zhen, the wife of the master of the Ma family in Chang'an. She sent men of sacrifice to attack Jiang Dudu. Zhang Sheng was also attacked and is still in the hospital. Chen Yuan told the truth. "Zhang Xi, don't be impulsive. The Ma family in Chang'an is a 1,000-year-old reclusive family. Even the master dares not offend them." Lu Shan advised. Zhang Xi was silent for a while. Wisps of breeze appeared around him, And the chill became stronger and stronger. The anger in his heart kept rising. A dragon had a reverse scale, and so did he, Jiang Xi. When Chen Yuan and Lu Shan were nervous, Jiang Xi suddenly sneered. The Ma family, haha. What a Ma family. 1,000-year-old reclusive family. I'd like to see how powerful the Ma family is. How dare they hurt the family of Jiang Xi? His tone was cold and full of killing intent. I'll be right back. Jiang Xi rubbed Jiang Dudu's head. Jiang Dudu nodded gently. Suddenly, a gust of wind whistled and a gust of wind appeared. Jiang Xi's figure directly soared into the sky and disappeared in an instant with a boom. He flew away. Today, no one will have an easy time. Only Jiang Xi's voice was left, full of killing intent. Jiang Xi can actually fly? Chen Yuan and Lu Shan were stunned. This was different from the airwalk from before. This was flying directly in the air. Quick! Inform the master. They were in a panic again. Jiang Dudu stood in the same place, looking in the direction of Jiang Xi's departure. Her slightly pale face bloomed with a smile. On this day, from Paksun Province to Luo City Prefecture, and then to Chang'an City Prefecture in a straight line of thousands of kilometers. Whether it was the people in the city or the monsters in the wilderness, they were all shocked by the sudden flash of light in the sky. The speed was too fast. It was fleeting. Jiang Xi turned into a gust of wind and lightning, flying rapidly in the air. This was one of the changes brought to him by the Gale True Will. His strength had a qualitative leap. Real airwalk. That was why he was confident that except for Xiantian, he was not afraid of anyone. Even Xiantian could not do anything to him. When others could not fly, Jiang Xi could fly, so he had the upper hand. From Paksun Province to Chang'an City Prefecture, thousands of kilometers, flying in the air only took 10 minutes. Xiantian and Huang Kuan probably did not expect Jiang Xi's speed to be so fast. This was also because Jiang Xi had slowed down many times during the flight. Otherwise, with his extreme speed, he could have arrived in 2 to 3 minutes. But that extreme speed would put a great burden on the body, and it would be easy to get injured. Wuxia Jiang Xi came to the huge Chang'an City Prefecture. He did not know the exact location of the Ma family. Easy. Now that he had the spiritual sense, although he did not have the ability to explore the whole city at once, he could always find them. His speed was fast, so was his exploration. Thus, a gust of wind and flowing light flashed continuously in the sky above Chang'an City Prefecture. It was difficult to catch Jiang Xi's figure with just the eyes. He was like an unidentified flying object. For a moment, the senior members of the martial arts world in Chang'an City Prefecture were all on alert and ready to defend themselves. Hundreds of fighter jets rose from the Chang'an army camp outside the city. But these fighter jets could not lock onto Jiang Xi's figure at all. Too fast. Jiang Xi did not care about these. In just a moment, his spiritual sense had found the destination. Found it. Jiang Xi's eyes were full of killing intent. Chapter 173. At this moment in the Ma family's mansion, Ma Jinhai frowned and was very puzzled. The streamer in the air, no matter how he looked at it, it looked like a person. But now, can anyone fly? In the martial arts world, only 2 people can walk in the air. One is Li Baibai and the other is Jiang Xi. Now that Jiang Xi is dead, Li Baibai is the only one left. But walking in the air and flying in the air are 2 completely different concepts. The Ma family has a deep heritage. Ma Jinhai knows that Spirit Yun stage cultivators can't fly in the air, only when they reach the gold core stage. At this time, his tactical communications watch vibrated, and he received a new message. After clicking on it, his face changed slightly. Jiang Xi is still alive? He just came out of the Jade Lake secret realm half an hour ago? Still alive. Haha, good, very good. This way I can avenge Xiaoyu with my own hands. After reading the content of the message, Ma Jinhai laughed. Suddenly, his expression froze as he sensed that something was amiss. He is also in the Spirit Yun stage and has spiritual sense. Just now, he found that there was another spiritual sense that swept over him unscrupulously. Whoosh! Before he could react, the streamer in the air disappeared, and when it reappeared, it was already above his Ma family. The streamer stopped. It was really a person. Jiang Xi. Ma Jinhai's face suddenly changed, and he was even more shocked by Jiang Xi's speed. At that moment he even felt the threat of death. Because Jiang Xi's speed is at least 3 times faster than him, a Spirit Yun stage martial artist. But Ma Jinhai is a man who has lived for more than 100 years, and he quickly regained his composure. He knew that Jiang Xi must have come for the sneak attack in Pak Sun province yesterday. It's just that it came too fast. At this time, facing the murderer of his son, Ma Jinhai strangely controlled his emotions and did not attack Jiang Xi. He asked with a sullen face, Jenten Budokan Jiang Xi, why did you break into my Ma family? You know the answer, ask Hu Zhan to come out. Jiang Xi was expressionless. I don't understand what you are talking about. Do you really want me to do it? Jiang Xi remained calm. He was not as impulsive as he appeared to be. Back then, Xian Tian had warned him to be careful of the hidden families, and he still remembered it. Even the Xian Tian was wary of the existence, so of course, he wouldn't underestimate it. This is the territory of the Ma clan. If you do anything, you'll be making an enemy of the Chang and Prefecture and the Great Xia Kingdom. Could it be that you want to commit treason? Ma Jinhai said sternly. I'm giving you face, but you don't want it. His figure flashed in the air. He wanted to do it himself. How dare you? Ma Jinhai was enraged and struck out with his palm. What a joke. Jiang Xi sneered and turned around to strike down with his palm. Spiritual energy surged, and the 2 palms collided, directly exploding, setting off a strong impact of spiritual energy. After disappearing for a year, he has become stronger again. Ma Jinhai was shocked. He did not stop attacking. If he allowed Jiang Xi to kill Hu Zhan in front of him, then the Ma family would lose all face. Boom! 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 He kept blasting out powerful attacks to stop Jiang Xi. The strength of his spiritual energy should be at the middle stage of spirit nurturing. But my target now is not him. Jiang Xi's figure flitted in the air and dodged easily. His target was only Hu Zhan. He kept searching with his spiritual sense. Swoosh! Jiang Xi struck out again and got rid of Ma Jinhai's entanglement. He instantly disappeared in the air. His spiritual sense had already found Hu Zhan's location. Although he didn't know what Hu Zhan looked like, under the investigation of his spiritual sense, there was only one woman who had the highest status in this huge mansion and hated him to the core. This was an ancestral hall hidden in the depths of the Ma clan mansion. There were many memorial tablets erected. Hu Zhan was kneeling in the ancestral hall. Jiang Xi's figure suddenly appeared in front of Hu Zhan. He said coldly, "You're Hu Zhan." Hu Zhan raised her head, but there was no fear on her face. Her eyes were filled with resentment. She said hatefully, "Jiang Xi, you'll die a horrible death." Humph, petty tricks. Jiang Xi was unmoved. He raised his hand and slapped away the item in Hu Zhan's hand. He didn't expect it to be a glass bottle. The glass bottle fell on the ground of the ancestral hall and shattered. Dark red liquid flowed out and quickly seeped into the ground. Following that, Ma Jinhai rushed in. When he saw this scene, his expression changed drastically. The ground was filled with the blood left behind by Ma Yu. Ma Jinhai shouted angrily, "Hu Zhan, look what you've done." His shout stunned Jiang Xi for a moment. He didn't understand Ma Jinhai's position. Jiang Xi isn't a good person. There's no good person in your Ma clan either. Haha, die. All of you die. Hu Zhan's face revealed a strange smile. Vicious woman. Ma Jinhai was furious. It was as if he was even angrier than when Jiang Xi killed his son. He condensed his spiritual energy and struck out with his palm. He directly killed Hu Zhan, who had a strange smile on her face. Then, he knelt on the ground in fear and bowed piously in front of the memorial tablet in the ancestral hall. Jiang Xi didn't need to guess at this strange scene. He knew that something was wrong. Moreover, he sensed that there was a frightening and sinister aura emerging from the ground. It was constantly growing stronger. Danger! Retreat! Jiang Xi retreated and rushed into the sky. But it was very strange. He felt that there was an invisible palm following him closely, as if it wanted to catch him. It was a terrifying feeling. Dong dong dong. As if something was hitting the ground, more than half of the Ma clan's mansion collapsed. Many people were running for their lives. What's underground? Is this the foundation of a reclusive family? Jiang Xi was shocked. I can't be caught by the invisible palm. Intuition told Jiang Xi that if he was caught, he would die. Gale true intent. Around Jiang Xi, wisps of wind circled. But the strange thing was that the wind couldn't gather and form a real gale. The gale true intent was suppressed, and the speed of flight was greatly reduced. Jiyuan sword technique. Jiang Xi launched a counterattack in the air. The spiritual weapon-level killer shadow sword kept stabbing and fighting with the invisible palm. Boom! 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 The momentum was astonishing. The ground trembled as if there was an earthquake. Inside the Chong and local government, ordinary people were trembling. As for the martial artists, whether they were in A or F class, they felt more intense than ordinary people. A chill rose from the bottom of their hearts, as if they were shrouded in a great terror. Outside the Chong and local government, two figures, one in front and one behind, rushed over from two directions and then gathered together. It was White Cloud and Qin Shi. Their spiritual senses immediately discovered the battle in the air. Jiang Xi was fighting with an invisible palm and was at a disadvantage. Oh no! Both of their expressions changed drastically. They didn't dare to get close, fearing that they would be attacked by the invisible palm. Ma Jinhai, that trash, actually woke up the Ma clan's patriarch. Isn't he afraid that the patriarch will destroy the Ma clan when he's unconscious? Qin Shi said coldly with anger. White Cloud, on the other hand, was concerned about Jiang Xi's safety. She hurriedly asked, "Is there a way?" Qin Shi took a deep breath and said seriously, "We can only try. Fortunately, I brought the Qin clan's ancestral item. Hopefully it will be effective." Chapter 174. The scene in the air was very strange. Only a figure could be seen swinging his sword with all his might. This was because only his spiritual consciousness could detect the terrifying invisible palm print. In his desperation, Qin Shi took out an old seal and threw it at the invisible palm print in the air. At the same time, he shouted, "My ancestor sends his greetings to Senior. Please calm down." Whoosh! The seal froze in the air and was caught by the invisible palm print. Good chance. Jiang Xi's eyes flashed. His gale true intent exploded and he disappeared into the air. He had escaped. At the same time, after the invisible palm print caught the seal, it seemed to have calmed down its anger and quickly returned underground. Whoosh! Jiang Xi's spiritual consciousness had discovered White Cloud and Qin Shi. His figure flashed and he appeared in front of the two of them. "Thank you for your help." Jiang Xi thanked them sincerely. If it weren't for the seal, he might have been caught by the invisible palm print. The result of being caught was death. "You brat, you always surprise us." White Cloud heaved a sigh of relief, but he was also extremely shocked. They had all seen the scene of Riverward flying in the air just now. Now, Jiang Xi's strength and methods were probably not inferior to the two of them. However, they did not ask why Jiang Xi could fly. It would be impolite to ask such a secret that involved one's opportunities. "Let's go to the Ma family and take a look," Qin Shi said in a deep voice. The three of them rushed towards the Ma family. The commotion just now was too big. More than half of the Ma family's mansion was destroyed. When they arrived, many of the Ma family's warriors were treating the injured clansmen. The moment the abnormality in the ancestral hall came too suddenly, many people were affected and some were seriously injured. It was very tragic. Seeing this, Jiang Xi's expression was indifferent. The main cause of all this was the dead Hu Zhan and the ancestor underground of the Ma family, not him. If Hu Zhan hadn't attacked Zhang Daodu and Zhang Sheng, he wouldn't have come here, and the matter of breaking the glass bottle wouldn't have happened, of course. Even if he didn't break the glass bottle, Hu Zhan would have broken it anyway. Ma Jinhai came before the three of them. He looked at Jiang Xi and asked in a hoarse voice, "Are you satisfied now? My grudge with Hu Zhan ends here." Jiang Xi nodded lightly. Then he thought for a moment and said, "There's another grudge between us. I'm sure you already know that I killed Ma Yu. If you say you don't care about such a huge grudge, no one will believe you. Why don't we end this grudge today? Senior Qin and White Cloud can be witnesses." As Jiang Xi spoke, he was secretly observing Ma Jinhai's reaction. He was testing Ma Jinhai. This was because he realized that Ma Jinhai's actions were very unusual from the beginning to the end. He had killed Ma Jinhai's son. With such hatred, Ma Jinhai was actually able to hold himself back from attacking him when he first saw him. It was very unusual. Ma Jinhai looked like an angered honest person. He looked at Qin Shi and said angrily, "Qin Shi, listen to this. This is the 5th elder of Genten Budokan Zhang Xiai. He killed my son, forced my wife to her death, and now he dares to humiliate the Ma family. Bullying others like this, where is the justice?" Qin Shi shook his head and was unmoved. He said to Ma Jinhai, "I advise you to calm the situation quickly. Otherwise, if you attract too much attention, the Ma family will be exposed. Don't say I didn't warn you." White Cloud, who was beside him, sneered, "Don't pretend to be pitiful. Who is your son? How did he die? What did Hu Zhan do? Don't you know? Don't say that the Genten Budokan is bullying others. Otherwise, you can ask my master to be the judge." By mentioning Xian Tian in the last sentence, he was blatantly using his power to bully others. Ma Jinhai's expression changed and he said angrily, "You will die a horrible death." Haha. White Cloud laughed. "What can you do to me?" Jiang Xi's expression changed. It seemed that Ma Jinhai also knew about Ma Yu's identity. There is a gloomy atmosphere in the Ma family. It makes me uncomfortable. I'll leave first. Zhang Xiai got the result he wanted and did not want to stay here any longer. Moreover, he had also warned White Cloud and Qin Shi about Ma Jinhai's abnormality. He did not want to be involved in the rest of the matter. After speaking, Zhang Xiai rushed into the sky again and turned into a stream of light, flying in the direction of Pak Sun province. Ma Jinhai only looked at Zhang Xiai angrily and did not do anything. White Cloud and Qin Shi looked at each other. They also realized that something was wrong with Ma Jinhai. Then, the two of them left the Ma family and went to the Genten Budokan of the Chang and local government to rest. Qin Shi asked White Cloud, "What is Ma Yu's real identity?" White Cloud sneered, "The Liberal Alliance's secret agent in the sky-level training camp." Qin Shi's expression immediately became serious. This matter was worth investigating. The Liberal Alliance was like a disgusting tumor to the entire martial arts world. None of the major martial arts forces did not want to get rid of the Liberal Alliance. However, there were many martial artists in the Liberal Alliance. The cost of poaching them was too high and could easily cause chaos in the martial arts world. If they did not poach them, the martial artists of the Liberal Alliance would often cause trouble all over the world and come out to disgust people. This situation was also one of the reasons why the Liberal Alliance could survive until now. Another reason was that the founder of the Liberal Alliance was extremely mysterious. Until now, no one knew his identity. This person was like a poisonous snake hiding in the depths of the grass. It was impossible to guard against him. This situation made people very wary. If this person took revenge, it would be very troublesome. Therefore, for so many years, the major martial arts forces had basically been tracking down the founder of the Liberal Alliance. Now they finally found something. They had found something in the past, but it was not as valuable as this discovery. Master asked me to come here and help Zhang Xiai, but I didn't expect to find something unexpected. Ma Jinhai's reaction this time is very strange. Coupled with the fact that his son is a secret agent of the Liberal Alliance, I think we should pay more attention to him, White Cloud said. He said this to test Qin Shi's attitude. Because the status of the reclusive families was extraordinary, and Ma Jinhai was the head of the Ma family, they could not casually investigate him. That would easily cause the hatred of all the reclusive families. Qin Shi was a contemporary expert of the reclusive Qin family. He was ranked in the top 10 of the world's martial arts world. His words had a lot of weight among the reclusive families. If Qin Shi did not object to investigating the Ma family, then the rest would be much smoother. The Liberal Alliance must be eliminated. I agree to investigate Ma Jinhai, but I request a joint investigation team. Qin Shi pondered for a moment before making a decision. No problem, but the investigation team cannot have too many people. Otherwise, the information will be easily leaked. Agreed. Oh. Chapter 175. In the ancestral hall of the Ma family, Hu Zhan's body was still lying there. There was also a pile of broken glass next to it, but the blood that flowed out of it had disappeared completely. It was very strange. Ma Jinhai walked into the ancestral hall with a gloomy face. Seeing Hu Zhan's body, His expression was gloomy, and he cursed. "Bitch, you almost ruined my plans." After venting, he asked someone to come over and clean up. Soon, whether it was Hu Zhan who was killed by his palm, or the broken glass, they were all cleaned up. Peace was restored in the ancestral hall. The terrifying existence underground, known as the Ma family's ancestor, had fallen into a deep sleep again. Ma Jinhai respectfully offered incense to the memorial tablets in the ancestral hall. Then he opened a secret door behind the ancestral hall and walked in. This was a secret room that had existed long before the recovery of spirit aura. The Ma family had been passed down for thousands of years, and this secret room had a lot to do with ensuring that the inheritance was not destroyed in countless disasters. This was because it could block the detection of other people's spiritual senses. The secret room was not big. It was like a vertical rectangle, just enough for a person to stand. After Ma Jinhai entered, the door of the secret room closed again. In the darkness, he used his tactical communications watch to edit a message according to a special encryption method and sent it out. Then he crushed the tactical communications watch, and his eyes flickered. "Do you think I don't know that you are testing me?" Hu Zhan's unauthorized attack and Jiang Xi's sudden attack. It made Ma Jinhai realize that he might expose a lot of things. Therefore, he beat them at their own game and deliberately revealed those flaws in front of Jiang Xi and the others. This way, he could focus everyone's attention on him. In this way, not only could he eliminate the impact of Hu Zhan's unauthorized attack on him, he could also take this opportunity to divert everyone's attention and make the Liberal Alliance's secret plan more hidden and safer. Once the plan succeeded, even if his true identity was exposed, it would not matter. Because at that time, he would no longer be afraid of anyone. After Ma Jinhai finished dealing with the Liberal Alliance, Jiang Xi's figure flashed in his mind. The suppressed hatred in his heart suddenly surged. At such a young age with such talent, he has already reached the spirit nurturing stage at the age of 21. No wonder he is the #1 genius after the spirit chi recovery. If it weren't for these grudges, perhaps I would have chosen to pay a high price to rope you in. Unfortunately, you are now my enemy. No matter what, you have to die. All of you must die. The killing intent in Ma Jinhai's heart had already reached its peak, but he was doing his best to restrain it. The low growl of Swan Man echoed in the small chamber. Before White Cloud returned to Xiantian City, she reported what had happened in Chang'an to Xiantian. This included the final discussion between him and Qin Chi about the establishment of the investigation team. Spirit nurturing stage. Flying in the air? Xiantian was interested. It seemed that Jiang Xi had gained a lot in Heavenly Tower. In Xiantian's eyes, flying was obviously more important. Even the strange things that happened in the Ma family were temporarily put aside by him. This was because flying in the air and walking in the air for a short period of time were two different things. What it represented was extraordinary. As the world's strongest martial artist, he also had some understanding of the cultivation realm after the spirit nurturing stage. He knew that only when one reached the golden core stage could one truly fly in the air. Master, since Jiang Xi is already a spirit nurturing stage martial artist, according to the requirements, we need to assign him a secret realm to guard. Should we start preparing now? White Cloud asked. He just came out of Jade Lake. If I assign him a task now, wouldn't it be unreasonable? Let him rest for a while and spend more time with his family. Xiantian smiled. In addition, keep an eye on the investigation team. This time we are going to wrestle with the Liberal Alliance. Jiang Xi quietly returned to Zhenten Budokan, Pak Sun Province, without alerting anyone. Not long after he returned, he received a call from Xiantian. Xiantian's virtual shadow appeared in front of him. President. Jiang Xi still respectfully saluted. You are now a spirit nurturing stage martial artist, so you don't have to be so restrained. I am looking for you this time because I want to know something. Xiantian smiled. President wants to know about my experience in Tongtian Tower? Jiang Xi was not surprised. He was already prepared for this. I don't need to know the details. That is your opportunity. It is not convenient for me to pry. I just want to know, do you know the realm after the spirit nurturing stage? Xiantian's eyes were full of expectation. Jiang Xi's heart moved. Xiantian definitely knew about the golden core stage and other realms, but he should not have the corresponding cultivation method. After all, Xian Tian was also an ordinary person, without the heritage of a hidden family. After thinking about it, he decided to reveal some information to Xian Tian. After the spirit nurturing stage is the golden core stage. Then there are the nascent soul stage, primordial spirit stage, and the unification stage. Haha, sure enough, I knew that this path was not wrong. Xian Tian seemed particularly excited. After laughing, he quickly asked, "Then do you know the cultivation method of the golden core stage?" After saying that, he felt that it was inappropriate and added, "I can use treasures of equal value in exchange." Zhang Xi smiled and nodded in agreement. Then Xian Tian sent him a list of his collection. This list was very detailed, and the light image introduction made it clear at a glance. The things inside made Zhang Xi envious. Xian Tian was worthy of being the world's #1 martial arts expert. He was so rich that he was overflowing with oil. There were dozens of weapons of the spirit weapon level. The other treasures were even more dazzling. In the end, Zhang Xi picked a long sword from this list. "Just this one? You can pick a few more." Xian Tian was surprised. Zhang Xi shook his head and said with a smile, "Then give me a few more A-grade healing potions." Xian Tian sighed and lamented Zhang Xi's righteousness. Finally, he said with some difficulty, "There's one more thing. I wonder if you would mind teaching the cultivation method of the golden core stage to others, such as Li Bai and the others?" Zhang Xi did not refuse and agreed. The world's #1 expert had a difficult expression, so he could not refuse. Moreover, it just happened to increase the strength of Dexia's high-end martial artists. After all, Li Bai and the others were on the same side as him, dojo master. You can do as you see fit. The only thing is that it cannot be leaked to foreign martial artists. "Don't worry, I know what to do." The two chatted for a while before ending the call. Xian Tian promised that he would send the items to Pak Sun province today. After that, Zhang Xi walked to the villa's balcony and smiled when he saw Zhang Daodu, who was sitting cross-legged and cultivating. Zhang Daodu noticed Zhang Xi approaching. She opened her eyes and said angrily, "What are you laughing at?" "Nothing much. It's just that someone sent us something good." Riverward chuckled. "Oh." Zhang Xi sat down beside Zhang Daodu and told her about the deal with Xian Tian. Zhang Daodu lowered her head and was silent for a while. Suddenly, she raised her head and said, "Zhang Xi, you've changed. Hey. Tell me clearly. How did I change again? You weren't so generous in the past." As the saying goes, it's easy to go from frugality to extravagance but hard to go from extravagance to frugality. Now you're floating. How am I floating? Who doesn't know the importance of the cultivation method? The cultivation method of the golden core stage is such an important thing, and you exchanged it for a spiritual weapon? It's completely for free. Isn't this so that they will owe me a favor? Zhang Xi, where did the shrewdness you had when you were selling vegetables go? As the saying goes, if you increase the rice, you increase the rice, and you increase the rice, you increase the rice, but if you don't, sometimes it will have the opposite effect. Chapter 176. Seeing Jiang Dudu scolding him, Zhang Xi felt very warm. It had been a long time since he had seen such a scene. When Jiang Dudu was almost done, Zhang Xi reached out and scratched her nose. He smiled and said, "I was the one who taught you all these principles. Don't worry, we definitely won't lose out this time." He wouldn't make a deal where he would lose out. He had gotten the golden core cultivation method from Inaishang. It was an unexpected gain. However, just like what Jiang Dudu had said, in terms of value, the golden core cultivation method was definitely priceless in this era. The reason why he said he didn't lose out was because the long sword he had chosen wasn't simple. Even Xian Tian himself probably didn't realize the value of the long sword. Otherwise, he wouldn't have put it in the list. In Zhang Xi's eyes, the value of the long sword was even higher than the golden core cultivation method, because it was a spiritual weapon, not a spiritual weapon. Spiritual weapons could only withstand spiritual power, but spiritual weapons could withstand spiritual power and spiritual power at the same time. It was a real weapon for cultivators. In the evening, a transport plane from Xiantian City landed in Zhenten Budokan, Pak Sun Province. An A-grade martial artist from the headquarters personally delivered a black alloy box to Zhang Xi's house. The A-grade martial artist who delivered the box was very respectful to Zhang Xi. Because Zhang Xi's shocking feat of flying in the air had already spread throughout the martial arts world. It had become the two hottest pieces of news at the moment. The other piece of news was, of course, the news of Zhang Xi's resurrection from the dead. It was equivalent to one person occupying the first and second hottest searches. All the martial artists in the world were trying their best to digest the impact of these two pieces of news. The stronger the person, the more they could understand how powerful Zhang Xi was. However, Zhang Xi was still the same as before. He didn't show any arrogance and thanked the A-grade martial artist very kindly. Then, he returned to the villa's training room full of anticipation. He took a deep breath and opened the black alloy box. He saw a quaint long sword embedded in the recess of the chest. Although the long sword seemed to have been ravaged by time, the blade still glowed with a cold light. Furthermore, the mysterious patterns on the sword seemed to have the effect of captivating one's mind, making one feel as if they had fallen into an abyss. Spirit artifact. Abyss condensation. This was not a name he came up with on the spur of the moment. It was a name that had been engraved on the sword hilt. A spirit artifact can only display its true power after being refined with one's spiritual sense. Otherwise, it would be no different from an ordinary spirit artifact, just a little sharper. Zhang Xi understood that Xian Tian probably did not have the spiritual sense to refine the spiritual tool, so he was not clear about the value of the abyss condensation. Otherwise, this benefit would not have fallen into his hands. Coincidentally, when he was in the Heavenly Tower's inheritance space, he had learned about spirit weapons from An Shang and knew how to refine spirit weapons. However, Zhang Xi wasn't in a hurry to refine it. Instead, he opened the bottom layer of the alloy box. He saw 10 A-grade life potions neatly placed inside. This was specially prepared for Zhang Daodu and Zhang Shang. Both of them were injured. With the A-grade life potions, their injuries would recover very quickly. Only when their injuries were healed would he be able to cultivate in peace. The next day, Zhang Xi brought Zhang Daodu, who had recovered from her injuries, to visit Zhang Shang. After Zhang Shang saw Zhang Xi, he was also very excited. Strictly speaking, he was Zhang Xi's first martial Dao teacher and was Zhang Xi's senior. Naturally, he hoped that Zhang Xi would be well. Moreover, he had also heard of Zhang Xi's shocking actions at Chang and local government yesterday. He was touched and emotional. In the face of Zhang Shang's praise, Zhang Xi didn't feel proud or complacent. He remained humble and was very respectful to Zhang Shang. After treating Zhang Shang's injuries, Zhang Xi returned home and focused on refining the abyss condensation sword. According to the method An Shang taught him, he used his spiritual consciousness to refine the abyss condensation sword for half a month before finally refining it completely. 2 moons hung in the sky. The moonlight on a full moon night was exceptionally bright. Zhang Xi took advantage of the night and flew directly to Ruin 052, which was about 500 kilometers away from Paksun province. He held the abyss condensation sword in his hand as he stood on a tall building in Ruin 052. Let me see the true power of a spirit weapon. Zhang Xi's eyes flashed as he stared at an A-grade shadow flying leopard in the depths of the ruins. However, he didn't release his spirit vessel aura. He just walked over or he would scare the monster away. Roar! The shadow-flying leopard saw Zhang Xi and pounced over with an angry roar. It was incomparably swift and fierce. Heh! Zhang Xi chuckled. His spiritual consciousness and spirit energy were instantly injected into the abyss condensation sword. Then, he waved it lightly and silently. The shadow-flying leopard's spiritual eyes had a baffled look. It wondered if this human was a fool. However, in the next moment it became alarmed because its line of sight had changed. The distance between its 2 eyes was constantly increasing. It was split into 2 halves by that sword along its forehead. Zhang Xi sheathed the sword, very satisfied with the power of the abyss condensation sword. With this spirit weapon, his strength increased by a lot again. In general, the sword was the main carrier of his strength. What he was good at was the swift sword. Whether it was the 9 elemental sword technique, or the newly comprehended true intent of Gale, what he displayed in the end could be summed up in one word: fast. 2 words: speed. And now, the only thing that could increase his speed again was to raise the realm of the true intent of Gale. True intent of Gale won 5 million. 1 experience point was too eye-catching on the interface. Next, let's start cultivating seriously. The encounter in the Ma family made Zhang Xi understand that the water in this world was still very deep. With his current strength, it was not enough to deal with all the dangers. He needed to become stronger. The main reason why the true intent of Gale was suppressed that day should be because the realm of the true intent of Gale was not high enough. Although the true intent of Gale was only one experience point, it brought a qualitative leap in his strength. But if he encountered someone who also comprehended the true intent of the Tao, and the other party's comprehension was deeper, it was normal to be suppressed. 500,000 experience points. Let's fight. Zhang Xi entered a frenzied state of hunting. He killed monsters when he saw them. No matter if it was an F-class monster or an A-class monster, he killed one when he saw one. Because his current experience point gap was too big. He had already entered the era of 100,000 experience points. At this time he especially hoped for a beast tide. Then he could really quickly farm experience. Unfortunately, a beast tide was not so easy to gather. And as he continued his hunt, the monsters in the ruined city did not gather. Instead, they began to escape, leaving the ruins and hiding in the wilderness. Creatures with intelligence would seek good fortune and avoid disaster. The monsters were scared of him. The ruined cities in Pak Sun province were once again affected. Those martial artists who often came to the ruined cities to train also lamented that they could not find any monsters to kill. They all ran away. This time, no one would come to Zhang Xi to complain. Who would dare to? Now Zhang Xi's strength had already spread throughout the martial arts world. He was the true pinnacle of martial arts, standing at the top of the human race. Chapter 177. What made people heave a sigh of relief was that in just a month riverward stopped. Because Zhang Xi found that he couldn't find any monsters to kill. It would be a waste of time if he continued to waste time. After a month, his experience points finally exceeded the 1 million mark, which was enough for him to spend for a long time. With enough experience points, he had the capital to keep a low profile. Next, it was time to keep a low profile. He focused on cultivating and improving his cultivation and Gale true intent. It was worth mentioning that after reaching the spirit nourishment stage with his current physical strength, he could increase his cultivation, martial arts, and Tao techniques by 500 points every day. Any more and it would exceed his body's limit, of course. If he had a large amount of spiritual energy, he wouldn't be limited by this. Unfortunately, he was only left with a 1,000-year Fei, the lotus seed pod. The rest had been used up during the inheritance trial. Zhang Xi didn't deliberately pursue these. Anyway, there was nothing important now. He just needed to steadily improve his strength. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed. New Moon Year 95, July 15th, Ghost Festival. The two moons in the sky seemed to have become a little cold. Great Xia Country, Mount Shu Prefecture. There was once an ancient poem, Mount Shu is Difficult. It described the terrain and environment of the mountains and rivers of Mount Shu. After the recovery of spiritual energy, the environment here became more strange and dangerous. All kinds of powerful monsters were scattered in the mountains and rivers. Late one night, an invisible transport plane landed in the wilderness outside Shushan Prefecture. A group of people walked out of the transport plane. The monsters in the surrounding mountains and forests fled in all directions. Because the aura emitted by these people was at least A class. 12 of them were wearing black robes with red clouds. Some were Great Xia Country martial artists, and some were foreign martial artists. They were the 12 directors of the Liberal Alliance. This was the first time they acted together. The other 3 were the 3 spirit nourishment stage martial artists who trespassed the Jade Lake secret realm last time, and were scared away by the Xiantian Shaluk, Johansson, and Ivan. When will your boss arrive? Shaluk asked the group of people wearing black robes with red clouds. He was a contemporary powerhouse of the Peacock Country. Even in the world's martial arts world, he was ranked at the forefront. His strength was not ordinary. This time, the 3 of them had been invited by the mysterious founder of the Liberal Alliance to come here and unearth the opportunities of a secret realm in the Great Xia Kingdom. Sam was still the representative of the Liberal Alliance. Facing the spirit nurturing stage cultivator, Sam replied respectfully, "We don't know the whereabouts of the people from Yuanqing Mountain. He just asked us to wait." Shaluk and the other 2 looked at each other and didn't press him. This was because they were also very afraid of the mysterious hermit Yuanqing. On the other side, the 12 directors of the Liberal Alliance were testing each other. After all, some of them had only met at the board of directors, and this was the first time they had met in real life. For example, Mr. M, who was second only to Mr. Yuanqing in terms of mystery, became the target of everyone's probing. Mr. M Ma Jinhai wore a mask this time, so no one could recognize his true identity. Mr. M is also from the Dexia kingdom? Feng Xian was the first to ask. That's right, Ma Jinhai said in a low voice. Mr. M, have you heard about the earth-shattering battle in the Chang and local government half a year ago? Such a big event has already spread throughout the martial arts world. Of course I've heard about it. Ma Jinhai lost his son and his wife. Do you know that? Yes. The two of them exchanged words. In the end, Feng Xian still didn't find out Mr. M's true identity. In fact, during the last board of directors meeting, everyone suspected that Mr. M was Ma Jinhai from the Ma family in the Chang and local government. However, they couldn't jump to conclusions easily without seeing his face. If they were wrong, it would be big trouble. Because the Ma family in the Chang and local government was a reclusive family with a history of thousands of years. No one dared to provoke or frame the master of a reclusive family. Half a year ago, because of Jiang Xi's revenge, the Ma family revealed those strange scenes. Even if it was just a video, it still made them feel frightened. Whoosh! The sound of someone walking through the forest was heard. Almost instantly, a skinny figure in a black robe appeared in front of everyone. A gloomy and cold aura suddenly spread out, making people tremble with fear. Greetings, Hermit Yuanqing. The 12 directors of the Liberal Alliance all saluted respectfully. Sharuk and the other two also nodded slightly to show their respect. It's almost time. Let's go. Hermit Yuanqing's harsh voice sounded. As he said that, he rushed into the depths of the mountains. The others hurriedly followed. Feng Xian looked at Mr. M's back in front of him with a playful expression. At the same time, he was also secretly excited. Soon, I will reach the Spirit Yun stage and stand at the peak of human martial arts. After more than a year of cultivation, his strength had finally reached the A-level bottleneck. However, to become a Spirit Yun stage martial artist, he still needed more time to practice visualization and polish himself. Only then could he have a chance to break through. But now he had a chance to reach the Spirit Yun stage quickly. As for the hatred between him and Jiang Xi, he didn't dare to hope for revenge with his own hands. Feng Xian knew that even if he reached the Spirit Yun stage, there would still be a huge gap between him and Jiang Xi. In his subconscious, he had even tacitly given up the idea of revenge. Now he was wholeheartedly pursuing martial arts. In front of him, Ma Jinhai's mood was not affected by Feng Xian's words. His expression under the mask was very calm. This was because he knew very well what he needed and what he wanted this time. Jiang Xi, just you wait. After today, I will be able to surpass Xian Tian. Killing you will be a piece of cake. Under the guidance of Hermit Yuanqing, the group of people arrived in front of an inconspicuous mountain in just a moment. This location was very secluded and hidden in the mountains surrounded by monsters. Very few people would take the risk to enter this place. We're here. Hermit Yuanqing's eyes emitted a frightening cold light. At the foot of the mountain was a hidden cave that led to the underground. The group of people continued to go down along the cave. Finally, they stopped in an empty stone cave underground. The directors of the Liberal Alliance were all shocked. This stone cave was the place where they usually held meetings through the virtual projection. However, Hermit Yuanqing did not care about their shock. He walked straight to the stone wall of the stone cave without saying a word. Then, he took out a black tooth from under his black robe and placed it on the ground in front of the stone wall. Take out the things I asked you to collect. Hermit Yuanqing's tone was also calm. Feng Xian, Ma Jinhai, and the others put away their shock and took out an item each. There was a strand of withered yellow hair, a section of finger bone that was about to be weathered, a piece of skin, and so on. Together with the tooth, there were a total of 13 items. They looked very ordinary, but when these items were placed together, they emitted a chilling aura. These were the items that the Liberal Alliance had collected for this plan over the years. Hermit Yuanqing knelt on the ground under the curious gazes of the crowd and worshipped the items devoutly. After a while he made other moves. He made a few strange seals in front of the 13 items, and his spiritual power surged. Open! Hermit Yuanqing suddenly roared. His domineering aura made the others instinctively retreat. He was too powerful. At the same time, Hermit Yuanqing slapped out the seals and landed on the items. A strange scene appeared. Suddenly, the items turned into 13 rays of black light and drilled into the stone wall. Something seemed to have happened to the seemingly ordinary stone wall. Suddenly, a cold and gloomy light shone from the top of the mountain, eerily passing through the top of the mountain and shining directly on the stone wall. If someone was outside the stone cave, they would see that the cold light was the moonlight tonight. The moonlight gathered and poured down like a pillar of light, enveloping the mountain peak above the stone cave. There was no sound. The stone wall began to become illusory. Gradually it disappeared. In the end, a deep hole was left. It was like a spatial door that connected to an unknown space. A gloomy aura spread out from the unknown space. Chapter 178. After half a year of concentrated, open cultivation cheat, Jiang Xi's strength had reached another level. Cultivation. Spirit Vessel Middle Stage 4570152800. Cultivation Method. 5 Elements Deed of Thorough Comprehension. Peacock Visualization Martial Technique. 9 Elements Sword Art. Combine 300,003,0000. Wind God Escape. Level 9 900,009,0000. Dao Technique Gale Intent. 8150/1. 5 million. Amplitude 2. 467 Deduction. 10,000 experience points per time. Experience points. 1010555. In terms of cultivation, it had risen from the early stage of Spirit Vessel to the middle stage of Spirit Vessel, and it was not far from the late stage of Spirit Vessel. The spiritual energy in his body, whether it was the total amount or the intensity, had reached a new level. In terms of Dao technique, the Gale Intent was no longer an embarrassing 1 experience point. The improvement of the Gale Intent caused his spiritual energy amplitude to correspondingly increase to 467 times. In other words, when he made a move, the strength of each spiritual energy unit was more than twice the original, which was also a step up. Overall, his overall strength had reached a new level. Although I don't know how I compare to Xian Tian, other cultivators in the late stage of Spirit Vessel, I'm definitely not weak. Jiang Xi was very confident. Even if it was the world's secondly bye-bye, Jiang Xi was confident that he could kill her. There's still one more problem. Now the 9 Elements Sword Art can't keep up with my strength, it needs to be improved. Under the moonlight, Jiang Xi sat cross-legged on the rooftop of the villa, thinking about this problem. In the past 6 months, he had also used the experience points panel to deduce the 9 Elements Sword Art. But the number of failures made his heart ache so much that he didn't dare to think about the word deduce anymore. A total of 50 times, using up 500,000 experience points, all of them failed. The success rate was so low that it made one's hair stand on end. The reason for the failure, Jiang Xi was also clear. It must be that the 9 Elements Sword Art's martial technique grade was too low. The success rate of the deduction was determined by the grade and completeness of the martial technique and Dao technique, but where can I get a high-grade martial technique? The 9 Elements Sword Art was already one of the best martial techniques on earth. Jiang Xi was a little worried. Leave it to fate. Then he jumped off the rooftop and went to find Jiang Dudu. Next, he would accompany Jiang Dudu in her training. For some reason, Jiang Dudu had taken a liking to the path of assassination. In Zhenten Budokan, Pak Sun Province, there were no warriors who could train with Jiang Dudu. This was because Jiang Dudu was now a top-notch C-grade martial artist. If she went all out, even a B-grade martial artist might not be able to block her. Even Dojo Master Chen Yuan, an A-class martial artist, could not be a sparring partner. With his strength, he was naturally not afraid of Jiang Dudu's assassination attempt, but correspondingly, it would definitely hurt Jiang Dudu. Therefore, the only person who could train with Jiang Dudu was Jiang Xi. Because Jiang Xi had spiritual sense, he was not afraid of her assassination. He could accompany her in her training. Jiang Dudu was naturally very happy. The next day, she would train with Jiang Xi on the path of assassination. Jiang Xi seemed to be taking a stroll, leisurely strolling in Tongtian district. It was already night time, and there were many martial artists taking a stroll in the district. When they saw Jiang Xi, they all bowed respectfully to him. Jiang Xi also smiled and nodded in response. He did not show any arrogance. When he walked into a dense forest in the district, whoosh! A cold light suddenly attacked from the darkness without any warning. Jiang Xi's response was very simple. He just raised his hand and pinched the dagger in the cold light with 2 fingers. Can't you pretend for a while? Jiang Dudu appeared from the darkness in a tight black suit. Training is not child's play. The path of assassination lies in being cautious and in the blink of an eye. If I am not strict with you now and make you overconfident in your strength, it will be too late to regret if you encounter a dangerous situation in the future. Jiang Xi was very serious. All right then, Jiang Dudu muttered. In summary, you have already integrated into the environment, but you are not good at using the environment. For example, there was a gust of wind just now. You could have used that wind to hide the fluctuations of your aura when you attacked and increase your speed at the same time. Jiang Xi analyzed seriously. Jiang Dudu also listened seriously. After the analysis, Jiang Xi smiled again. You have improved a lot during this time. At the very least, a B-class martial artist has a very small chance of surviving your assassination. If an A-class martial artist is not prepared, they may also be injured by you. Jiang Dudu was beaming with joy. Her strength had finally improved a lot. Of course, it was mainly because she had received Jiang Xi's praise. Alright, today's training. Before Jiang Xi could finish his words, his tactical communications watch suddenly vibrated. This was the frequency of vibration when there was an emergency. He quickly answered the call. Jiang Xi hurried to Shushan Prefecture. Something big has happened. Xiantian's low voice came through. Listening to his tone, the situation seemed to be very serious. What is it? The legendary Fengdu Mountain has suddenly opened. Fengdu Mountain. Jiang Xi was shocked. This name had an extraordinary meaning in the myths and legends of Wuxia. It was the location of the mythical underworld. Hurry over as fast as you can. I am already on my way. Xiantian hung up the call. Jiang Xi's expression also became serious. It was indeed a big matter. Brother, Fengdu? Is it Fengdu Ghost City in Shushan Prefecture? Jiang Dudu was very interested. After all, it involved her field of expertise. She grew up watching ghost movies and had long heard of Fengdu Ghost City. This Fengdu is not Fengdu. It is Fengdu Mountain, the location of the mythical underworld. Jiang Xi shook his head and said, the situation is urgent. I have to go. Jiang Dudu did not willfully stop him because she knew that Jiang Xi's identity was different from the past. He had some responsibilities. Don't forget to catch 2 ghosts for me. Jiang Dudu did not forget to remind him. It would have been better if she did not mention it. With this reminder, Jiang Xi instantly reacted. I am going to the underworld. The thing he was most afraid of in his life was ghosts. However, at this moment he did not have much time to think. After returning home to retrieve his weapons and equipment, he directly flew into the sky under the night sky and flew toward Shushan Prefecture. Jiang Dudu looked at Jiang Xi flying away with a worried expression. Of course, she also knew that Jiang Xi was most afraid of ghosts. She was very worried that if he really encountered a ghost, Jiang Xi would be scared out of his wits. From Pak Sun Province to Shushan Prefecture, it was more than 1,000 kilometers. Jiang Xi flew at a high speed all the way. In terms of speed, compared to half a year ago, it had increased by 20 to 30%. In less than 10 minutes, he was close to Shushan Prefecture. Far away, hundreds of kilometers away, Jiang Xi saw a scene that surprised him. He saw a beam of light converging from the 2 moons in the sky and directly shining on the mountains. The coldness emitted by the beam of light was very different from the usual soft moonlight. At the same time, several transport planes also rushed from all directions to the place where the beam of light converged. Jiang Xi quickly flew over and found that many people had already arrived. Xiantian and He Tu came from Zhenten Budokan. Other people who came were Li Baibai, Huang Kuan, and Lu Rong, the 3 cultivators of the spirit gathering stage. As for the remaining 2 people, Jiang Xi did not know them, but looking at their strength, they were also in the spirit gathering stage. Including him, There were a total of 8 spirit-gathering cultivators. Chapter 179. The place where everyone gathered was not far from the pillar of light formed by the moonlight. Looking closer, one could clearly see that the huge pillar of light had enveloped an inconspicuous small mountain. The small mountain was currently emitting an extremely gloomy aura. It was as if the gloominess was about to break through the mountain and spread between heaven and earth. When Xiantian saw that Zhang Xi had arrived, he quickly introduced them to him. Zhang Xi, these two are Xu Luan, a spirit vessel expert from the Shujia prefecture, and Han Wanju, a spirit vessel expert from the Han family of Paksun province. The situation is urgent, so I won't introduce them further. Let Xu Luan bring us over. Xu Luan and Han Wanju. Both of them were experts from the reclusive families. They and Zhang Xi looked at each other and nodded slightly. Zhang Xi's gaze lingered on Xu Luan for a while. Like him, Xu Luan also carried a long sword on his back. He had heard of this person before. He was an expert ranked in the top 10 of the world's martial arts experts list. The other elder with a kind face, Han Wanju, should be the expert of the Han family of Paksun province. Although he had never heard of this name before, Han Wanju's strength was not weak. The strength of the spiritual power he emitted was similar to Xu Luan's. They were both at the mid-stage of the spirit vessel realm. Zhang Xi sighed. The reclusive families were indeed not weak. At the very least, they had a spirit vessel expert. Everyone, please follow me. Xu Luan led the way with a solemn expression. At the same time, he explained to everyone what had happened. Half an hour ago, our Shujia's compass vibrated abnormally. Then, I followed the compass's guidance and discovered the situation here. This pillar of moonlight and the gloominess seeping out of the mountain are almost the same as the Fengdu mountain recorded in the Shujia's ancient books. Only in terms of scale, it is far from the legendary Fengdu mountain. Because Fengdu mountain is the entrance to the Fengdu mystic realm, this matter is of great importance. Therefore, I quickly invited everyone here to investigate and prevent anything from affecting the Dexia kingdom. Everyone nodded, understanding Xu Luan's actions. In the spirit qi recovery era, anything related to myths and legends could not be underestimated. As a reclusive family, the Shujia actually had an important mission all these years, which was to guard the Fengdu mystic realm. Fengdu mountain was rumored to be the location of the netherworld, but since ancient times no one knew if the netherworld really existed. Therefore, everyone usually called it the Fengdu mystic realm instead of the netherworld. However, the Shujia's mission of guarding the Fengdu mystic realm had never been carried out. This was because even the Shujia didn't know where the entrance to the Fengdu mystic realm was. This was also the first time they had discovered Fengdu mountain. After approaching the ordinary mountain, Zhang Xi was a little surprised. He vaguely felt a sense of familiarity. However, he couldn't remember what it was that made him feel familiar. When Xu Luan brought them closer to the cave under the hill, the sense of familiarity became even clearer. Ghastly. Yes, that's the feeling. Zhang Xi remembered. Half a year ago, when he went to the Ma family to cause trouble, Hu Zhen used Ma Yu's blood to awaken the Ma family's ancestor. At that time, the aura emitted from the ground was very similar to this. However, the ghastly aura here was denser, as if it was about to condense into water. Those who were slightly weaker would easily suffocate in such an environment. Everyone followed the cave that led underground and soon arrived at the stone cave. The scene in front of them shocked everyone. One of the stone walls of the stone cave had been completely blurred, turning into a deep space door that connected to an unknown space. It was like a giant abyss that swallowed all things. It was frightening. The ghastly aura was emitted from the space door. It went without saying where this space door led to. The entrance to the Fengdu mystic realm. Xiantian and Xu Luan said almost at the same time. Everyone looked at each other and didn't enter rashly. At this time, facing such a place of ghosts and gods and myths and legends, no matter how strong they were, a chill rose in their hearts. Xiantian asked Xu Luan, "Can you close this door from the outside?" "I don't have that ability. I can only go in and take a look." Xu Luan shook his head. At this moment, Han Wenju suddenly said, "Someone has been here." Someone had been here. Everyone's expressions immediately became serious. Then this matter was not a sudden natural phenomenon. It was opened by someone. Han Wenju was good at tracking and investigation. This was also one of the reasons why he rushed here. The other reason was very simple. Because he and Xu Jia were connected by marriage, his wife was Xu Luan's sister. About how many people? Xiantian asked. About 15 people. 15 people. Everyone was shocked again. This matter was very serious. I have a discovery, Jiang Xi suddenly said. Everyone's gaze focused on him. Half a year ago, I felt a similar ghastly aura in the Ma family. Riverward gave a simple account of the situation when he fought with that formless palm print. At that time only he, White Cloud and Qin Chi knew about the scene. However, this time White Cloud and Qin Chi did not come. Xu Luan's expression was very serious. He said, I have a rough idea of what Jiang Xi is talking about. It involves some secrets of the reclusive families. I hope that everyone can keep it a secret after hearing it. Seeing that everyone nodded, he continued. The reclusive families each have their own inheritance. For example, the Xu Jia and the Ma family of Chang and are both different. The Xu Jia's inheritance is to catch ghosts, while the Ma family's inheritance is to control corpses. In fact, the Ma family lived in this mountain a long time ago. However, for some reason they moved to Chang, and the ghastly aura that Jiang Xi mentioned should be coming from zombies, catching ghosts, controlling corpses. Everyone was shocked. This was indeed a secret. There's another situation. I suspect that the head of the Ma family, Ma Jinhai, may be related to the Liberal Alliance. Jiang Xi said again. Is this true? Xu Luan's expression changed. I can testify to this. Argenten Budokan and the Qin family of Shuntian Prefecture have been investigating Ma Jinhai for half a year. Although we have not found any concrete evidence, various signs indicate that there is some kind of connection between him and the Liberal Alliance, Xiantian said. Xu Luan's expression was complicated. He shook his head and said, then this matter is basically clear. Besides our Xu Jia, the Ma family also knows about the secrets of Fengdu Mountain. Since Ma Jinhai is related to the Liberal Alliance this time, he and the Liberal Alliance must be behind it. This was a very important piece of information. Once the truth of this incident was confirmed, everyone would be able to be on guard otherwise. If they did not know that it was the Liberal Alliance's doing, they might be ambushed after entering. No matter what, we have to go in. This is our Xu Jia's ancestral soul-subduing talisman. Take one with you. In case you really encounter a ghost, it may be useful. Xu Luan took out a stack of exquisite talismans and distributed them to everyone. After Jiang Xi took it, he hesitated and said, Can you give me a few more? One is enough to drive away ghosts and ward off evil? Besides, I don't know if this thing is useful. After all, I have never seen a ghost. Xu Luan was puzzled. However, he still smiled and gave the rest of the talismans to Jiang Xi. Thank you. Jiang Xi thanked him sincerely. He asked for so many just for peace of mind. What if it worked? Speaking of which, he was still a little apprehensive. He was most afraid of ghosts in his life. Subsequently, the group of 8 people with Xiantian and Xu Luan in the lead stepped into the deep and dark spatial door and disappeared. Chapter 180. The deep space door had a mysterious teleportation power. Jiang Xi and the others only felt a change in space before they entered the Fengdu secret realm. This was a dark world. It was vast and boundless, and gray fog filled the air everywhere. The scene in front of them made their expressions change drastically. They were shocked. Looking up, he saw a bare black mountain standing between the heavens and the earth. This mountain occupied a large area, and they couldn't see the end. It was like a wall that separated the world. This mountain was extremely tall, as if it had pierced through the sky. There seemed to be raging flames burning at the top, bringing some light to this world. Xu Luan suddenly exclaimed, Could this be the real Fengdu Mountain? The mountain is 2,600 miles high, and has a circumference of 30,000 miles. There are also palaces of ghosts and deities. Everyone followed his words and observed the black mountain in front of them. Sure enough, they could vaguely see that there were a few palaces built on the mountain from top to bottom. The palace at the bottom was right in front of them at the foot of the black mountain. Let's go and take a look, Xiantian said in a deep voice. The 8 of them immediately ran toward the palace in front of them. It looked close, but the journey was not short. After walking for hundreds of miles, they still hadn't reached the foot of the mountain. It could be seen how big this mountain was. Those people from the Liberal Alliance passed by here not long ago. Han Wenju reminded them. He had found new traces. Xiantian nodded and said, "Everyone must be careful." They were already very careful. With their strength, they could actually walk 100 miles in a few breaths. But now their speed had never exceeded the speed of sound. Be careful. Jiang Xi also maintained his usual habit of constantly observing the surroundings. He realized that the terrain of this world was very simple. Other than the black mountain in front of them, there was only an endless wasteland. There was not a single living creature, not even a ghost. This discovery made Jiang Xi slightly relieved. It seemed that the Fengdu secret realm should be similar to the Jade Lake secret realm. It had been abandoned for many years. After a while, everyone finally got close to the palace at the foot of the mountain. It turned out that this palace was very big. It was 1,000 meters high and close to 10,000 meters wide. Who is living in such a huge palace? Everyone was puzzled. They turned to look at a huge stone tablet in front of the palace. There were black words carved on it. Jiang Xi discovered that the structure of these characters was somewhat similar to the characters in the Jade Lake mystic realm. It was as if they came from the same era, but there were also differences. As for the specific differences, he couldn't pinpoint them. However, the meaning of these words was clearly conveyed to everyone's minds. Fengdu Mountain. Absolute Heaven Palace. Everyone still didn't rush in rashly, nor did they get too close. Instead, they observed their surroundings to see if there was any other way up the mountain. It was the same principle as not entering a forest or crossing a river. This palace was filled with a strange aura. There's a river at the foot of the mountain. Li Baibai made a new discovery. Everyone hurriedly rushed over, their expressions filled with shock. How is this a river? It was somewhat similar to the legendary Yellow Spring, but the river water was black, as if it was condensed from baleful aura. There were also eerie white bones floating in it. This made everyone feel waves of alarm, as if they fell down, their flesh would melt away, turning into white bones. Whoosh! Xiantian picked up a 10,000-ton boulder and threw it out. The boulder instantly arrived above the Black River, but before the boulder could fall, a strange force appeared, and the boulder quickly weathered at a speed visible to the naked eye, and then disappeared without a trace. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. It seems that we can only pass through that palace. Xiantian shook his head. This was because the source of this Black River was unknown. It flowed along the foot of Fengdu Mountain, majestically flowing into the distance. It spanned across the land, separating this wasteland from Fengdu Mountain. If they wanted to enter Fengdu Mountain, they could either cross the river or pass through the palace called Absolute Heaven Palace. Compared to the Black River, Absolute Heaven Palace looked safer. They walked to the front of Absolute Heaven Palace. This time everyone discovered that part of this magnificent palace was suspended in the air above the Black River in the middle of the palace gate. There was a wide straight path that led straight to the depths of the palace, just crossing the Black River. This straight path looked abnormally new, as if no one had stepped on it before. If I'm not wrong, this should be the ghost path. Legend has it that before ghosts reincarnate, they have to walk on this path. Shu Luan's words were shocking. Ghost path? Isn't it the Yellow Spring, or the Bridge of Helplessness? Jiang Xi was puzzled. The others also looked at Shu Luan with the same doubts. Myths and legends are true and false, who knows which is true? However, Fengdu Mountain's ghost path is before the legends of the Yellow Spring and the Bridge of Helplessness. These are recorded in the ancient books of our Shujia, Shu Luan said. He then exhorted, in short, after stepping on the ghost path, be sure to stick the soul-subduing talisman that I gave you. Everyone did as they were told. After all, Shu Luan was the expert here. Jiang Xi, one is enough. Shu Luan said in surprise. Stick a few more for insurance. Jiang Xi did not raise his head as he stuck the soul-subduing talisman all over his body. Shoulders, arms, thighs, chest, back. Okay, let's go. Jiang Xi looked at the soul-subduing talisman all over his body and felt relieved. The others looked at the lone soul-subduing talisman on their bodies and suddenly felt as if something was missing. They wanted to say, aren't you exaggerating? Then the 8 of them stepped on the ghost path and felt very strange. They seemed to have suddenly become much smaller. Compared to the wide ghost path, they seemed very small. Whoosh, gusts of cold wind blew from nowhere as if it was blowing at their souls. A bone-chilling chill rose from their hearts. Their hair stood on end. Buzz, the soul-subduing talisman on their bodies, trembled slightly and began to emit a golden glow. It was very warm and directly dispelled the chill. At this moment Jiang Xi was a little eye-catching. The others only had one spot on their bodies shining, but his entire body was emitting a golden glow. However, this was not the focus of everyone's attention. Everyone's expression was very solemn and cautious. It's working? There really are ghosts. Shu Luan's eyes widened as he looked around. Jiang Xi also reacted. The soul-subduing talisman was working. What did that mean? There really were ghosts. The gusts of cold wind just now, perhaps they were ghosts? He could not help but shudder, and his hair stood on end. What the fuck? Can I retreat now? Sob, sob, sob. Faint sobbing sounds rang out around the crowd. It seemed to have a mesmerizing effect, and one could not help but feel pity for them. Get lost. Xiantian suddenly shouted angrily. The aura of his entire body erupted, and the shocking true meaning of saber spread out in an instant. Wah wah wah. Suddenly the things around them seemed to be frightened. The terrified wails were incomparably terrifying. Chapter 181. This time everyone saw it clearly. They saw a human-shaped shadow fleeing in all directions on the ghost path. Their figures were erratic and somewhat distorted, as if they were weightless and would be blown away by the wind at any time. Could this be a ghost? These are wandering souls. Their strength should not exceed a class. Shu Luan said the names of these shadows. Wandering souls. That was also a type of ghost. Everyone looked at those human-shaped shadows in surprise, trying to observe the difference between them and humans. Although there were no spirit-nurturing realm wandering souls, they did not dare to relax their vigilance. At first glance, the number of wandering souls that were forced to retreat by Xiantian was definitely more than 100. Moreover, this ghost path was so wide, who knows how long it was. How many wandering souls would there be behind it? Wandering souls are generally not strong. I'm just worried that there will be ghost soldiers. Legend has it that the ghost soldiers' combat power is extremely strong. Shu Luan said seriously. Everyone's heart trembled. However, even so, no one retreated, because the Liberal Alliance was already in front. If they retreated now, what if the Liberal Alliance did something big here? Not to mention the impact it would have on humans, it would definitely be a great threat to the Xia kingdom. Therefore, no matter what was in front of them, they had to catch up. Since the Liberal Alliance could pass through this level, then they could too. Woo-woo. The faint sobbing sound continued to ring in front of the ghost path. When everyone really entered the palace area, these sounds became more intense, accompanied by the sound of the rapid flow of the river. Because this ghost path was just above the Black River. If one stood at the edge of the ghost path, one could vaguely see the scene in the river below. It was different from the river scene outside the palace. In this section of the Black River, in addition to the eerie white bones, there were countless wandering souls struggling inside, trying to rush up. But the river seemed to have some kind of restraint, making them unable to break free. Only a few wandering souls broke free from the restraint, making a sobbing sound that sounded like crying and laughing, cheerfully rushing up the ghost path. And the aura of Jiang Xi and others seemed to be very attractive to them, like moths to a flame. They instinctively wanted to rush over. But they were afraid of the golden light emitted by the soul-subduing talisman and did not dare to approach. Thus, the number of wandering souls on the ghost path increased. Those sobbing sounds disturbed people's mind. Don't act rashly, Shu Luan reminded. Even without his reminder, everyone knew that they had to tread carefully. Jiang Xi felt uncomfortable all over because it was as if there were many cold gazes constantly sweeping past his body. Using his spiritual awareness, he discovered that the wandering souls in front of them were constantly circling around them. Those contorted faces let out human cries and laughter. Suddenly many wandering souls let out different kinds of screams and rushed towards them as if their lives depended on it. Like a tidal wave, their numbers were innumerable. However, it seems like ghosts aren't afraid of death. Run! Xiantian shouted. There were simply too many wandering souls, and it was impossible to kill them all. Thus they could only charge forward. Zhang Xi discovered that he seemed to have become the main target of the siege because his current appearance was too eye-catching. The soul-subduing talisman on his body was emitting a golden light that caused the wandering souls to fear. Wah wah wah! The wandering souls screamed and rushed to the front of the group. Swish! Swish! Zhang Xi directly channeled his spiritual power and waved his sword to release a sword light, which instantly fell on those wandering souls. The power erupted, and the wandering souls hit by the sword light were like punctured bubbles. They just shook for a moment before bursting into ashes. You killed an A-class wandering soul. Experience points plus 100 and you killed an A-class wandering soul. Experience points plus 100 and you killed an A-class wandering soul. Experience points plus 100 and... The prompt of the experience points panel kept ringing. A single sword strike killed dozens of A-class wandering souls. It turns out that ghosts can also die. Zhang Xi was excited, and the fear in his heart suddenly decreased by 30%. He kept waving his sword without using his full strength. Just by using his spiritual power to perform the 9-element sword art, he could make these wandering souls dissipate directly. Why would he be afraid of an A-class wandering soul? At the same time, Xian Tian and Li Baibai were also attacking. Their strength was also tyrannical. With one sword and one knife, they easily killed the wandering souls around them. Apart from them, Xu Luan was also very relaxed. His long sword also had a golden glow, which was very harmful to the wandering souls. As long as the wandering souls touched it, they would be directly annihilated. The others were not in a good situation. Especially He Tu, she was only at the early stage of the spirit accumulation realm. Soon, the wandering souls got close to her. Puff, puff, those fearless wandering souls crashed into He Tu. But the soul-subduing talisman suddenly lit up. The wandering souls screamed and their bodies were destroyed. However, everyone found that the golden glow emitted by He Tu's soul-subduing talisman weakened a little. Don't let the wandering souls get close to you, Xian Tian shouted. At the same time, he flashed to He Tu's side and helped her to resist those crazy wandering souls. But no matter how cautious they were, there was still the possibility of them getting close to them. Because there were too many wandering souls, their numbers were like a tide, as if they could not be killed. Puff, puff, puff. They seemed to be following their instincts and kept attacking everyone. A group of 8 people, while fighting on the ghost path, were also desperately rushing on. Zhang Xi had the most soul-subduing talismans on him, so he suffered the most attacks. He also did not remove the extra soul-subduing talismans, as this was to reduce the pressure on everyone. Moreover, the more wandering souls he gathered, the more experience he would gain. Where could he find so many A-class warriors outside for him to kill? At the same time, Zhang Xi was puzzled. How did those people from the Liberal Alliance pass through here? They had the soul-subduing talismans, which allowed them to better defend against the attacks of the wandering souls. Those people from the Liberal Alliance did not have any soul-subduing talismans. Could it be that Ma Jinhai provided them? But according to Xu Luan, the necromancer lineage was not proficient in dealing with ghosts. Zhang Xi was puzzled as he calmly killed those crazy wandering souls. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. His experience was also increasing rapidly so. Suddenly, everyone seemed to have broken through a layer of barrier and passed through the ghost path above the Black River. The number of wandering souls around them decreased sharply, and they were no longer a threat. When they turned around, they could see that there were still a large number of wandering souls behind them. They were circling, dancing, and howling on the ghost path. They had passed through. However, the soul-subduing talismans on their bodies had dimmed and were about to be extinguished. Zhang Xi took out the soul-subduing talismans he got from Xu Luan and gave one to each of them. This time it's all thanks to Zhang Xi. Xian Tian sighed. The others nodded. That's right, if not for the soul-subduing talismans pasted all over Zhang Xi's body, which attracted the majority of the wandering souls' firepower, they would not have had such an easy time. Especially He Tu, Huang Kuan, Lu Rong and Han Wenju, who were slightly weaker. If they had been surrounded by the wandering souls for a while longer, they might have been in danger. Chapter 182. In fact, Huang Kuan and the others were originally worried about Zhang Xi's strength. This was a kind of concern from the elders, because Jiang Xi was too young. Other than Jiang Xi, even the youngest He Tu was over 60 years old. She was old enough to be Jiang Xi's grandmother. Therefore, even though Riverward had previously displayed an astonishing ability to fly in the air, but the people present had not seen him fight with their own eyes. They were worried that he could not deal with the danger here. Now they were completely relieved. Jiang Xi's attack just now made them certain. Not only did Jiang Xi have the ability to deal with these dangers, his strength also surpassed them. He was on the same level as Xian Tian and Li Baibai. Facing everyone's praise, Jiang Xi remained indifferent and humble, because he did not fight for nothing. If it was not too dangerous, he wanted to go back and do another round. In just a moment he gained a huge amount of experience points. He looked at his experience points balance. Frowny face experience points 1904085. He gained nearly 900,000 experience points. This time he had the capital to use the deduction function again. After crossing the ghost path above the Black River, walking here, the number of wandering souls decreased sharply. Everyone finally had the chance to carefully observe the palace. At this time they confirmed that the ghost path crossed the entire Jutian Palace. If they continued forward, they would be able to leave the palace area and reach the foot of Fengdu Mountain. But what surprised them was that they could not see the inside of Jutian Palace, because the scene outside the ghost path was extremely dark and filled with gray fog. It was deep and mysterious. There was no way to explore what was in the depths of the palace. The group of 8 did not dare to stay any longer and continued forward. The road below was much safer. Occasionally, a small number of wandering souls would rush over, but they were easily killed by them. After walking for more than 10 minutes and crossing hundreds of kilometers, they finally walked out of the palace area of Jutian Palace. In front of them was the Black Fengdu Mountain. But in the next moment, everyone stopped in their tracks. They saw a corpse lying outside Jutian Palace. It was a corpse, not a ghost. They breathed a sigh of relief. After getting closer, everyone realized the corpse was wearing a black robe with red clouds. His face was yellow and the exposed skin was wrinkled. It was as if he had been dead for many years and had been dried by the wind. Moreover, there was a hideous penetrating wound on the corpse. Strangely, there were no traces of fighting or bloodstains around. This person looks familiar. He Tu frowned. Before she reached Spirit Vessel, she was in charge of intelligence in Genten Budokan. He's not a great Xia martial artist, Huang Kuan said. Indeed, if this corpse was not a person's appearance, it would have looked different from the people of Great Xia. I have an impression of him. He seems to be an A-class martial artist from the Holy Alliance. I saw him once in Nordic City 30 years ago, Lu Rong suddenly said. That's right. His name is Kalik, and he's an A-rank second-tier martial artist. He's very powerful, but he's not very famous in the Holy Alliance. Very few people in the martial arts world know about him. He Tu finally remembered this person's background. Not famous. Everyone made the association of theirs as it was very similar to Feng Xian and Ma Jinhai's situation. Both of them were not famous in the Xia Empire, but they were not weak. In that case, he must be one of the directors of the Liberal Alliance. Xian Tian nodded. Li Baibai said coldly. He was attacked from the side and killed instantly. The person who attacked him, whether it was a human or a ghost, must have the strength of Spirit Vessel. According to the time, he died no more than half an hour ago. But the condition of the corpse seems to have been dead for a long time. It seems that the road ahead is not simple. She had been the calmest one. She had observed the corpse for a while. Then, everyone continued to be cautious and walked along the ghost path. Fengdu Mountain was in front of them. Looking at their tracks, the people of the Liberal Alliance had gone up the mountain. Standing at the foot of the mountain, they could see the straight and wide ghost path, which continued to extend to the top of Fengdu Mountain. Along the ghost path, there was another palace located halfway up the mountain. Moo moo moo. Hiss hiss hiss. Just as everyone was about to climb up the ghost path, suddenly, 2 neat and low strange sounds came from the 2 sides of the ghost path. At the same time, there was a powerful aura at the foot of the mountain. Everyone's expression changed. Swoosh swoosh. 2 streams of light seemed to have cut through the space and attacked. Their targets were the weaker He Tu and Huang Kuan. Dang dang. Jiang Xi was the fastest. His figure flashed and appeared in front of Huang Kuan. He raised his long sword and blocked one of the streams of light. Xiantian, who had been in front of He Tu, easily blocked the other stream of light. It was very dangerous. If they did not make a move, He Tu and Huang Kuan would not be able to block the attack. They might not die, but they would definitely be seriously injured. After the two streams of light were blocked, they disappeared into thin air. But everyone saw the appearance of the streams of light. They were a black trident and a white bone spear. Moo moo moo. Hiss hiss hiss. That strange sound sounded as if it was going to attack again. Go up the mountain. Everyone did not hesitate and quickly climbed up. Moo moo moo. Moo moo moo. Hiss 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 hiss. The rhythm of the two strange sounds changed. It was actually very rhythmic. It made everyone's pace a little messy and they slowed down. Are these two voices singing a mountain song? Jiang Xi wanted to ask, but it was obviously not the right time. They continued to move forward. Strangely, there were no more attacks. The ghost path was very quiet. However, everyone did not let down their guard. They had seen the attack just now. The trident and the white bone spear were all forged weapons. What was hidden behind them was definitely not simple. After climbing 400 to 500 kilometers, they finally approached the second palace. Similar to the Jutian palace below, this ghost path also led to the depths of this palace and kept going up. This is the Evil Heaven Palace. Shu Luan pointed at the stone tablet in front of the palace Jiang Xi. And the others also saw the name of the second palace on the stone tablet. Boom boom boom. Suddenly a fierce battle broke out in the palace. Moo moo moo. Hiss hiss hiss. The two frightening strange sounds also sounded at the same time. It was louder than the sound they encountered at the foot of the mountain. Are they from the Liberal Alliance? Everyone looked at each other. They had caught up. Without saying a word, they all quietly crept towards the palace. After approaching, they saw that there were more than a dozen figures on the ghost path in the depths of the palace. Under the cover of a golden light, they were struggling to resist the attacks from all directions. Jiang Xi's eyes flashed slightly. Many of these figures were wearing black robes with red clouds. Obviously, these were the people of the Liberal Alliance. Chapter 183. Jiang Xi confirmed the identity of these people not only through their clothes, because he also saw the figures of Feng Xian and Sam. He had fought with these two in the Jade Lake Secret Realm last time. In addition, there were other familiar figures. 3 Spirit Vessel Realm martial artists, Shaluk of the Peacock Country, Johansson of the Sacred Alliance, and Ivan of the Alpha Star. This time, the Dark Shadow Kingdom Spirit Vessel experts didn't come because they had few Spirit Vessel experts. Last time in the Jade Lake Secret Realm, one of them was crippled by Xiantian. They were already scared. At this moment, the ones attacking them were ferocious ghosts with black smoke all over their bodies. There were a lot of them, thousands of them. Taking a closer look, those ghosts were divided into 2 types. One type had the head of an ox and the body of a human, holding a black ox-horn trident and constantly making mooing sounds. The other type had the head of a horse and the body of a human, holding a white bone spear and constantly making mooing sounds. Those strange sounds were made by them. And these 2 types of ghosts were all wearing broken black armor. The ox-horn tridents and white bone spears in their hands were constantly attacking the dozen or so figures. The aura they emitted was very strong. They were all at the Spirit Vessel realm. Moreover, their attacks seemed to be very orderly. 10 ghosts were in a team, and their attacks were very orderly. It was as if there was a stronger existence commanding them from behind. Were these ox-head and horse-face? Jiang Xi and the others all thought of this term. However, what surprised them was that the attacks of these Spirit Vessel realm ghosts were so fierce that the people of the Liberal Alliance actually blocked them. Was the Liberal Alliance so powerful? A skinny figure covered in a black robe attracted everyone's attention. That was because that ball of golden light was spreading out from his body. Not only that, the black-robed figure emitted a very strong aura. He was at the late stage of the Spirit Vessel realm. He was at the same level as Xiantian and Li Baibai. This person may be the mysterious founder of the Liberal Alliance. Xiantian guessed. There are no more than 3 people in the world who can reach the late stage of the Spirit Vessel realm. It must be him. Li Baibai also said decisively. They had caught a big fish. It seemed that the higher-ups of the Liberal Alliance had turned out in full force this time. The golden glow emanating from this person's body is very similar to the soul-subduing talisman. It helped them block most of the attacks from the ghosts. Jiang Xi looked inquiringly at Xu Luan. The others also realized this. The strange thing was that Xu Luan and Han Wenju didn't look too good. That's my Shu Jia's requiem bell. Xu Luan looked a little angry and glanced at Han Wenju. Han Wenju smiled bitterly and said, "It was my wife who secretly took the soul-subduing bell from the Shujia, and then passed it to my granddaughter, Ying Shui. 2 years ago, when Ying Shui was training in the Jade Lake Secret Realm, the soul-suppressing bell was lost in the Jade Lake Secret Realm. I didn't expect it to be taken by the Liberal Alliance." Jiang Xi suddenly understood. He had an impression of this matter. At that time, Ma Yu had tried to kill Han Yingxue in order to obtain the bell in Han Yingshue's hand. Later, he killed Ma Yu and had a chance to get the bell. But in the end, Feng Xian appeared and he didn't have time to take it. The Requiem bell is different from the soul-subduing talisman. The soul-subduing talisman is a consumable item. It will become useless after it's used up. However, the Requiem bell can be used repeatedly. As long as you provide it with spiritual energy, it will continue to function. Xu Luan explained. Now everyone completely understood. It was no wonder that the Liberal Alliance could make it all the way here without the soul-subduing talisman. The ghosts besieging them are Oxhead and Horseface? Jiang Xi asked the question in his heart. They are the Oxhead soldiers and Horseface soldiers of the Yin soldiers. Their fighting power is very strong. They are not the Oxhead and Horseface of the legends. Xu Luan's expression was solemn. Jiang Xi and the others nodded slightly. If Oxhead and Horseface were only at the spirit-nurturing realm, then the legends were too low class. Then, everyone continued to observe the battle in the Evil Heaven Palace. They didn't plan to make a move. This was because their mission to enter the Fengdu secret realm was originally to investigate the situation. They were worried that there would be existences that would threaten the Daxia kingdom. When they found out that all of this was the doing of the Liberal Alliance, they had an additional mission. They now had one more mission, and that was to eliminate the people of the Freedom Alliance. If the Oxhead soldiers and Horseface soldiers could complete this mission for them, it would be even better. They wouldn't have to take the risk to continue going up. Therefore, everyone quietly lurked on the ghost path outside the Evil Heaven Palace and quietly observed. Moo! Moo! Suddenly, 2 roars sounded behind them. An Oxhead soldier and a Horseface soldier rushed out from the side of the Evil Heaven Palace and roared at them. The Oxhorn Trident and White Bone Spear were thrown directly at them as fast as lightning. Oh no! Everyone's expression changed. Bang bang! Jiang Xi and Xian Tian were the fastest to block the 2 attacks. However, the 2 of them didn't have any happy expressions because the commotion here had alarmed the other Oxhead soldiers and Horseface soldiers. Moo! Sure enough, some of the Oxhead soldiers and Horseface soldiers in front of the Evil Heaven Palace turned their attention to them. They let out a shocking roar and rushed towards Jiang Xi and the others. Rumble! The momentum was fierce. A great battle broke out in an instant. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. As the Oxhead soldiers and Horseface soldiers ran, they threw the Oxhorn Tridents and White Bone Spears in their hands at Jiang Xi and the others. They turned into streaks of light and were extremely powerful. The weapons in their hands seemed to be able to regenerate. After they were thrown out, new weapons quickly appeared. Defend! Li Baibai, Jiang Xi, the 3 of us will attack. Xian Tian shouted. Everyone reacted quickly. Jiang Xi, Xian Tian, and Li Baibai stood at the front and faced the Oxhead soldiers and Horseface soldiers. He Tu and the other Spirit Accumulations warriors went to defend against the attacks from other directions. Bang bang bang! Jiang Xi and the other 2 attacked. In an instant, they slashed out hundreds of times and collided with the Oxhorn Tridents and White Bone Spears that were flying towards them. The streaks of light shattered and exploded with a strong aura. They turned into gusts of cold wind and whistled on the ghost path in the next moment. The ghosts were in front of them. The Oxhorn Tridents and White Bone Spears stabbed towards them. Their movements were very neat. Moreover, all of their attacks were at the early stage of the Spirit Accumulations realm. Every attack could instantly kill a rank A martial artist. Jiang Xi's sword and Xian Tian's saber changed at the same time. An inexplicable charm emerged from the sword and saber. It was the Gale True Intent and Saber True Intent. The power of their attacks instantly increased, and they clashed with the ghost. The strong wind mixed with the cold wind howled and wreaked havoc in this space. Those who were slightly weaker could even be seriously injured by the wind. You killed Oxhead soldiers at the early stage of the Spirit Accumulations realm. Experience plus 220. You killed Oxhead soldiers at the early stage of the Spirit Accumulations realm. Experience plus 220 notifications kept ringing on Jiang Xi's experience panel. Among them, there were two words that made him pay attention. The panel called the Oxhead soldiers and Horseface soldiers as ghosts. Ghosts with spirituality? Did that mean that these two types of ghosts had a certain level of intelligence? Chapter 184. Although Jiang Xi was puzzled, he didn't have time to think about it. There were too many bull-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers rushing over. If he was distracted, he would be easily injured. Poof! A white bone spear attacked Jiang Xi from the side, but it was blocked by the light of the soul-subduing talisman. However, the golden light of the soul-subduing talisman on his waist also disappeared. It had been destroyed in one blow. Jiang Xi quickly took out another soul-subduing talisman and stuck it on again. The others weren't much better off. Everyone's hearts were heavy because they wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Once the soul-subduing talisman was used up, it would become more and more dangerous. Unlike the Liberal Alliance, they had the soul-subduing bell to ensure that the golden halo would always be there. At the same time, the sounds of Jiang Xi's battle spread to the depths of the palace. The Liberal Alliance had discovered them. Xiantian Li Bai Bai Jiang Xi. Feng Xian Ma Jin Hai, and the others' expressions suddenly changed. In their eyes, Jiang Xi, Xiantian, and Li Bai Bai were now on the same level as experts. Feng Xian and Ma Jinhai both felt that things were not good because they hadn't obtained the opportunity that the people of Yuan Qingshan had mentioned. With their current strength, if they were to fight against Jiang Xi and the others, they wouldn't have a good ending. Only the people of Yuan Qingshan remained calm, as if they had expected this. He wasn't affected. Instead, he shouted coldly, "Take this opportunity to rush over." Because of the appearance of Jiang Xi and the others, many bull-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers had been lured away, reducing the pressure on them. At this moment, two extremely powerful auras came from the depths of the Evil Heaven Palace on both sides of the ghost path. Thump, 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 thump. Muffled footsteps approached from afar, nearing the ghost path. Soon the gray fog in the depths of the Evil Heaven Palace was broken through by two huge figures on the left and right. When the gray fog dissipated, everyone's eyes widened. They were also bull-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers. However, their bodies were 10 times larger, and they each held a bullhorn trident and a white bone spear. Their auras were even more terrifying golden core. Jiang Xi and Xiantian looked at each other. The people of Yuan Qingshan's SS expression changed slightly, but they remained calm as if they had expected this. Moo! Moo! Two Auras Core stage ox-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers were roaring at each other across the wide ghost path, as if they were communicating with each other. Moo! Moo moo moo! 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 It moo 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 whoosh. All of a sudden, they swung their huge ox horn tridents and white bone spears, clashing together in the air above the ghost path. Boom! Moo 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 moo, S2. S is to Tess. S mode to retreat, charge over. Hermit Yuanqing gritted his teeth and shouted coldly. He took the lead and repelled a few spirit vessel stage ox-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers. He wanted to rush out of the encirclement and out of the evil heavenly palace. The other directors of the Liberal Alliance, as well as Shaluk and the other spirit accumulation martial artists, quickly followed. Boom! The two golden core stage ghost spirits fought fiercely, accompanied by flashes of lightning and roars of thunder. However, when they saw a group of people trying to break out of the encirclement on the ghost path, they were shocked. They actually stopped attacking with great teamwork. They stabbed their tridents and spears at the hillmen. Not good. Hermit Yuanqing's expression changed drastically. Clearly, this had exceeded his expectations. He reacted quickly and tried to shrink the range of the soul-suppressing bell's golden halo. Yuanqing Mountain. Sha Ruk, Johansen and Ivan were furious. This was because the three of them had been guarding the perimeter of the Circle of Light the entire time, defending against the bull-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers. Now that the Circle of Light had shrunk, they were directly exposed to the attacks of these ghosts. With so many spirit vessel stage ghosts, they could not stop them with their own strength. However, Hermit Yuanqing's speed was still a little slow. How could he compare to the speed of a golden core stage cultivator? Bang! The trident and spear stabbed the soul-suppressing bell's halo heavily. Pfft! The soul-suppressing bell's halo was like a bubble that was directly shattered. Then, the trident and spear did not slow down and continued to attack downwards. Fuck! Johansen, the spirit accumulation expert of the Sacred Alliance, cursed in horror and wanted to dodge. This was because the trident was attacking him. Hermit Yuanqing's speed was not as fast as a golden core stage cultivator, so it was even more impossible for him to dodge. Johansen's body also exploded like a bubble. Nothing was left intact. The broken bones and rotten flesh did not fall from the sky. In the blink of an eye, they dried up as if their flesh and blood had been sucked dry. Johansen, who was in the mid-stage spirit accumulation stage, could not even withstand a single attack. A golden core stage cultivator was extremely strong. At the same time the long spear also fell. 4 of the Liberal Alliance's directors were instantly turned into a pile of meat paste. They could not be more dead than dead. In such an environment, an A-level martial artist had lost their protection and had no room to survive. Feng Xian and the other directors were all shocked. They were almost hit by the long spear just now. At the same time they were also in despair. Even if they did not die this time, could they still dodge the next attack? Without the protection of the soul-suppressing bell's halo, not only did they have to face the attacks of many spirit accumulation stage ghosts, they also had to face the 2 terrifying golden core stage ghosts. Outside the Evil Heaven Palace, Jiang Xi and the others also saw the scene just now. They looked at each other and felt their throats dry up. Too strong. Even if it was them, they would have died if they had encountered the attack just now. In comparison, these crazy minotaur and horse-faced soldiers in front of them did not seem so scary. The sudden change made everyone hesitant. It was so dangerous ahead. Should they continue to move forward? However, the founder of the Liberal Alliance, Hermit Yuanqing, obviously wanted to move forward. It was as if he came here to pursue something. His goal was very clear. Even the obstruction of the golden core stage did not make him retreat. This time we finally met the mysterious founder of the Liberal Alliance. We can't let go of this opportunity. He took the risk to open the Fengdu mystic realm. He must be after something. If he succeeds, it might be a great threat to our Xia kingdom. We must eliminate him, Xian Tian said in a deep voice. He slashed out with his saber and instantly killed a few minotaur soldiers. I agree, Li Baibai echoed. Jiang Xi also nodded gently. The others also agreed. Xian Tian wanted to say something and was about to speak. Suddenly, the situation changed again. Moo! Roar! Inside the Evil Heaven Palace, the 2 ox-head soldier and horse-faced soldier roared across the air. They seemed to be very unwilling and actually retreated back into the gray fog. Only the spirit accumulation stage minotaur and horse-faced soldiers were left behind to continue blocking. Quick, this is an opportunity. Rush out! Hermit Yuanqing hurriedly shouted. He could not maintain his calm. The golden halo of the soul-suppressing bell appeared again and enveloped the remaining people. Chapter 185. At this moment, Shaluk and Ivan's expressions were gloomy. At that moment they also felt the arrival of death. They almost ended up like Johansen. The action of Hermit Yuanqing shrinking the golden halo of the Requiem bell made them suspicious. Who knew if Hermit Yuanqing would do the same thing and abandon them decisively? However, the 2 of them also knew that under such circumstances, they could only follow Hermit Yuanqing and move forward. If they stayed here, not only would they have to face the siege of many spirit nourishment ghosts, but they also had to be wary of Jiang Xi, Xian Tian, and the others behind them. Damn it! They were both angry and unwilling to accept this. Not only the 2 of them but also the few directors of the Liberal Alliance who were still alive. Except for Ma Jinhai, the others' expressions were not good. Their thoughts were the same as Shaluk and Ivan. They were all suspicious of Hermit Yuanqing. Perhaps in the eyes of Hermit Yuanqing, they were not that important and could be abandoned at any time? This sudden change caused the people of the Liberal Alliance to have discrete differences. However, they did not show their differences now because they still had to work together to break out of the siege of the spirit nourishment ghosts. Although the attacks of the ox-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers were still fierce, the appearance of the two gold core ghosts just now made them a little chaotic. The order of their attacks was not as neat as before. This gave Hermit Yuanqing and the others a chance. Hermit Yuanqing's eyes lit up. He suddenly slapped his palm. The huge momentum directly slapped dozens of spirit nourishment ghosts away. The powerful power was definitely on the same level as Xian Tian and Li Baibai. This attack made everyone's heart tremble. They did not dare to reveal their resentment. Hermit Yuanqing, who was covered in a black robe, sneered. He could guess what these people were thinking, so he used all his strength to intimidate them. So what if you're in the spirit nourishment realm? We'll reach the next palace soon. The things there can help me reach the gold core realm. By then, I'll be the strongest person in this era. Hermit Yuanqing was full of ambition. Then he no longer hid his strength. His spiritual power surged, and he slapped out powerful palm prints. The ox-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers who were only in the early stage of the spirit nourishment realm could not stop Hermit Yuanqing. In addition, the others were also attacking. They relied on the protection of the Requiem Bell's golden halo, and completely ignored the attacks of the two spirit nourishment ghosts. They kept charging forward. In just a few breaths they finally rushed out of the Evil Heaven Palace. Moo, moo, the bull-headed and horse-faced soldiers were indeed unable to leave the Evil Heaven Palace. They could only howl incessantly on the ghost path. At the entrance of the Evil Heaven Palace, of course, Hermit Yuanqing, Hermit Yuanqing, Hermit Yuanqing, Hermit Yuanqing, Hermit Yuanqing, and the others. Almost the same as me. Li Baibai frowned. He is indeed very strong and very mysterious. Yuanqing Shan. I have never heard of this person before. I don't know what kind of fortuitous encounter he had that allowed him to cultivate to the late stage of spirit vessel without anyone noticing. Xian Tian shook his head slightly. However, his tone did not change. He was full of confidence in his own strength. No matter what, we have to catch up to them first. Those two golden core stage cultivators don't seem to be able to act recklessly. Let's take advantage of the chaos and rush over. Xian Tian said. Then they all strengthened their attacks and tried their best to break through. The ox-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers on the Evil Heaven Palace's ghost path were already in chaos. When the Liberal Alliance people rushed over, they became even more chaotic. They stood at the edge of the Evil Heaven Palace and roared. They lost their original order and could not effectively stop Jiang Xi and the others. With Riverward, Xian Tian, and Li Baibai at the front, the speed at which they killed the ghosts would only be faster than the people of Qingshan. The only thing they lacked was the protection of the Requiem Bell. However, before breaking through, Jiang Xi took out all the remaining Requiem talismans. Everyone had a few. If the Requiem talismans lost their effectiveness, they would replace them with new ones. Moo! Moo! The ox-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers in the spirit nourishment realm wanted to gather again to stop them. But it was difficult to restore order in such a chaotic situation. This was a chance for Jiang Xi and the others. After a while, they rushed out of the Evil Heaven Palace. The ox-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers could no longer be seen on the empty ghost path. Raising his head, Zhang Xian could see that there was a palace ahead of him as he continued along the ghost path. Before they climbed the mountain, they had seen several palaces on Fengdu Mountain. Now they had broken through the Ju Heaven Palace and the Evil Heaven Palace and encountered wandering souls, ox-headed soldiers, and horse-faced soldiers. What would be next? It's the Liberal Alliance. They are about to reach the next palace. Jiang Xi's eyes narrowed slightly. He was very careful to observe the environment. As soon as he rushed out, he was observing the situation around him. Looking carefully, he found that there were more than a dozen small figures above the ghost path. They were approaching the equally majestic palace above. Catch up! Everyone did not stop. They picked up their speed and went up at full speed. On the ghost path of the Evil Heaven Palace, the ox-headed soldiers and horse-faced soldiers had reorganized their ranks and occupied one side of the ghost path. Dong dong dong. 2 gold core stage ox-headed ghost spirit and horse-faced ghost spirit that were 10 times larger than them walked out of the gray fog outside the ghost path. Anyo, are we just going to let them pass? The horse-faced ghost spirit actually spoke human language. The ox-headed ghost spirit said snappily, what else? This is what Granny asked us to do. She said we only have one chance to attack. Then we can only attack once. Just now, if I had made the first move, then with my great strength oxhorn trident I could have made them all stay here. You just had to fight with me. Now that we've made a move together, they've all found an opportunity to charge over. I'm obviously faster. You're the one who fought with me, okay? The horse-faced ghost spirit was unwilling. I don't want to argue with you. Anyway, Granny will take care of them. The ox-headed ghost spirit snorted. Then he seemed to be reluctant and said, and, little Ma outside, you must call me Brother Nyo. Brother Nyo. Do you understand? I've said it 800,000 times. How many times do you want me to repeat it? Then why don't you call me Brother Ma? I was born half an hour earlier than you. Bullshit, Granny remembered it wrong. How dare you swear? Let's go and find Granny to judge. Let's go. Who's afraid of you? The 2 huge gold core stage ghost spirits retreated into the depths of the gray fog. On the other side, Jiang Xi and the others climbed up the ghost path quickly. Jiang Xi was constantly paying attention to the situation on both sides of the ghost path. At the same time, he was puzzled. Along the way, there was no danger and no strange ghosts to stop them. Could it be that after passing 2 levels they would pass the level? Or just like playing a game, there was a big boss waiting for them at the end? Chapter 186. In the strange silence, Jiang Xi and the others approached the 3rd palace of Fengdu Mountain. Tomorrow Palace. Everyone looked at each other. Finally, there was a normal name. The first 2 palaces were either absolute or evil. It didn't sound like a good place. And the Tomorrow Palace in front of them gave them a feeling of brightness. In the depths of the palace, there was a bright fire flickering constantly, as if it could dispel the gloominess here. Where are the people from the Liberal Alliance? Shu Luan wondered. The others were also observing around. It was very quiet. There were no sounds of fighting in the Tomorrow Palace. Could it be that they have already passed? It's impossible to be so fast. They spent at least half an hour in the first 2 levels. Even with the help of the Requiem Bell, the Liberal Alliance couldn't rush over in just a quarter of an hour. Everyone be careful, Jiang Xi reminded. He had never let down his guard. His sharp spirit sense told him that there seemed to be a terrifying existence in the palace that had been watching them in the dark. Xian Tian and the others nodded solemnly. They also felt it. But they had already chased them here. It was obviously impossible to retreat now. This time they must make the people from the Liberal Alliance stay here. Then, everyone carefully approached the Tomorrow Palace. They could clearly feel the temperature rising. There seemed to be a flame burning in the palace. When they reached the entrance of the Tomorrow Palace, it was still very quiet. Was it really safe? They observed the Tomorrow Palace and found that it was different from the previous 2 palaces, the Absolute and Evil Palaces. There was no gray fog in the Tomorrow Palace. With the ghost path as the boundary, in the desolate space on the left side of the palace, there was an ancient tree with white skin and red leaves. The ancient tree emitted an inexplicable aura, as if it had existed for many years. This wasn't the focus of Jiang Xi and the others. Their attention was attracted by the scene on the right. They finally understood why there was no movement in the palace. In the desolate space on the right, near the ghost path, there was a nearly 10-meter-tall alchemy furnace. Under the alchemy furnace, there was a faint blue flame burning. The flame looked eerie, but the temperature it emitted was extremely high. The source of the fire in the Tomorrow Palace was here. It seemed like something was being refined inside the furnace. At this moment, Hermit Yuanqing, Sharuk, Ivan, and another masked Freedom Alliance director were sitting cross-legged in the 4 directions of the cauldron. The 4 people's hands were all forming seals non-stop. The seals condensed from spiritual energy were constantly being slapped on the furnace. Is this alchemy? This thought flashed through the minds of Jiang Xi and the others, and they were somewhat bewildered. Who was the other person wearing a mask? The Liberal Alliance actually has 2 spirit gathering stage martial artists? The black-robed hillman Yuanqing had already noticed that Zhang Xi and Xian Tian had caught up to him, but he remained calm. The pill is about to be formed. What's the point of coming here? The man from Yuanqingshan sneered. He said to Shaluk and the others, "You guys go and stop the people outside. I will finish the last few seals." Both Sharuk and Ivan hesitated. Who knew if the people from Yuanqingshan would kill the donkey after it had outlived its usefulness? What? You don't believe me? The man from Yuanqingshan's voice became colder. That kind of gloominess seemed to merge with the surrounding gloominess. Of course we believe you, but you have to be quick. We can't stop them for long. Ma Jinhai, who was wearing a mask, stood up and walked towards the ghost path of the Mingtian Palace. Shaluk and Ivan looked at each other and followed him. It was not up to them whether they believed him or not. After all, the man from Yuanqingshan was the strongest. The remaining 6 directors of the Liberal Alliance, led by Feng Xian and Sam, were waiting on the ghost path to prevent Xian Tian and the others from attacking. On the ghost path outside the Mingtian Palace, Zhang Xi and Xian Tian had already made up their minds. After some observation, they could confirm that there was no danger in the palace. Otherwise, the people from the Liberal Alliance wouldn't have stayed inside for so long. Charge in! Xian Tian raised his long saber, and his aura erupted. This was the place to take care of the Liberal Alliance. A total of 8 spirit-nurturing experts from the Daxia Kingdom rushed into the palace along the ghost path and attacked the people from the Liberal Alliance. Feng Xian. Jiang Xi's gaze locked onto Feng Xian. This person was the first truly powerful enemy he encountered when he first stepped on the path of martial arts. Although their positions were reversed, and Feng Xian was no longer his opponent, he was still an enemy. No matter how great the disparity in strength was, he still had to be dealt with. Kill! Zhang Xi didn't show any mercy. His speed suddenly increased, and he instantly disappeared from his original spot. Zhang Xi. Feng Xian was frightened and wanted to dodge. However, a sword light pierced through space at an unimaginable speed and pierced his chest. Pooh! Instant kill. A rank warrior was like a little chick in front of Zhang Xi. In terms of killing speed, even Xian Tian couldn't compare to him. After Zhang Xi killed a person, Xian Tian's saber had just slashed out. At this moment, Zhang Xi's attack shocked the remaining 5 members of the Liberal Alliance. These 5 were all rank warriors from foreign countries. With Sam as the leader, they no longer had any thoughts of resisting and turned to flee. Can you escape? Zhang Xi was expressionless. No one could escape from his pursuit. This scene made Xian Tian, Li Baibai and the others stunned. It seemed that they didn't need to make a move as Zhang Xi alone could deal with them. This kid, I have a feeling that he will surpass me next time. Xian Tian shook his head. Haha, it's not a feeling, it's a certainty. Huang Kuan laughed. The others laughed as well, but they didn't say anything about jealousy. This was because they were all spirit-accumulating warriors who stood at the peak of martial arts in Daxia Kingdom. They considered the future of Daxia Kingdom, and naturally hoped that there would be more and more geniuses like Zhang Xi. In the distance, Zhang Xi couldn't hold back his speed after he unleashed his speed. His figure flickered continuously, and 3 of the remaining 5 members of the Liberal Alliance fell. At most, the other 2 would die in 5 seconds. At this moment, Sha Ruk, Ivan and Ma Jinhai, who was wearing a mask, rushed over. Ma Jinhai formed a fist seal and threw a tyrannical attack directly at Zhang Xi. Zhang Xi leaned to the side to meet the attack with his sharp spiritual sense. He found a sense of familiarity from the masked man. Ma Jinhai. Zhang Xi exposed the other party's identity. The last time he went to the Ma family of the Chong and local government, he had a short fight with Ma Jinhai and remembered his aura. Ma Jinhai had some kind of connection with the Liberal Alliance, but after they caught up with the people of the Liberal Alliance, they didn't see Ma Jinhai's shadow. In addition, the masked man was the same as Ma Jinhai, a mid-stage spirit accumulating realm cultivation. Therefore, Zhang Xi concluded that the masked man was 99% Ma Jinhai. Ma Jinhai snorted angrily and didn't hide anymore. He directly used his strongest palm technique. Palm seals violently blasted at Zhang Xi. His hatred and killing intent for Zhang Xi seemed to have merged into these palm seals. Chapter 187. At the same time, Xiantian and the rest were not idle. Their target was the Yuanqing Mountain Man in front of the alchemy cauldron. Although they did not know what the Yuanqing Mountain Man's goal was, they could tell that the item in the alchemy cauldron was very important to them. They had to destroy it. Sharuk and Ivan, the two foreign spirit vessel martial artists, could only brace themselves to stop Xiantian and the rest when they saw them rushing over. Both sides quickly exchanged blows. Sharuk and Ivan were crushed and retreated. They did not dare to fight recklessly. If they hesitated, they might be killed by Xiantian and Li Baibai. On the other side, Jiang Xi had completely suppressed Ma Jinhai. He waved his sword dozens of times and dispersed Ma Jinhai's palm prints. Although both of them were at the mid-stage of the spirit vessel realm, Jiang Xi was obviously stronger. Even if he did not use his flying ability, just the Gale True Intense spiritual power amplification was 467 times that of a normal mid-stage spirit vessel realm cultivator. This made his actual combat strength far surpass Ma Jinhai's. Our spiritual power is about the same. Why? Ma Jinhai could not understand and was unwilling to accept it. Jiang Xi did not care about his doubts. His abyss sword was like a phantom. His sword was extremely fast and slashed out rays of sword light. Since they were enemies, he could not be soft-hearted. Just like Feng Xian, he could finish them off in one go. Boom boom boom. The sword shadows and palm prints collided continuously. However, it was impossible to kill Ma Jinhai in such a short time. After all, Ma Jinhai was at the mid-stage of the spirit vessel realm. His strength was not as weak as it seemed. The situation became a little stalemate. On the other side, Sharuk and Ivan could no longer stop Xiantian and the rest. They did not dare to stop them anymore. Otherwise, they would be killed. Xiantian's target was not them, but the Yuanqing Mountain Man. Sneaky bastard. No matter what you are doing, you will die here today. Xiantian yelled and slashed out with the long saber in his hand. He condensed the blade true intent, spiritual sense and spiritual power. The huge saber shadow was extremely powerful. It was as if it could cut through everything and slash directly at the Yuanqing Mountain Man. Yuan Qingshan's expression changed, and he quickly made a hand-sealed deal. With a rare roar, he slapped the last few seals on the alchemy furnace that was nearly 10 meters tall. After doing all this, he rolled out of the pill furnace. Wang! The alchemy cauldron trembled, and the blue flames below became even more intense. There seemed to be a huge amount of energy hidden inside. The lid of the furnace was suddenly lifted and collided with Xiantian's blade shadow. Boom! A violent explosion occurred. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth and the gloomy aura surged and raged at the same time. Like a storm, it swept through the space. The two Liberal Alliance Class A martial artists who had escaped from Jiang Xi's pursuit were horrified when they encountered this powerful storm. They didn't even have time to scream before they exploded and died. The power of the collision had exceeded the limit of the spirit gathering stage and had stepped on the threshold of the gold core stage. The faces of the people from Yuanqing Mountain changed drastically. They had underestimated Xiantian's strength. However, at this moment he did not retreat. Instead, he went forward again to retrieve the item inside the pill furnace. This was his chance to surpass Xiantian. Don't even think about it. Xiantian slashed with his blade again. Whoosh, however. A strange wind blew and swept into the alchemy cauldron. Oh no! My core condensation pills! The people from Yuanqing Mountain's heart skipped a beat as they sped up. However, they were still one step too late. The strange wind swept out a pile of fingernail-sized core condensation pills from the alchemy cauldron. They emitted a strong spiritual aura. Among them, there were two Longan-sized core condensation pills that emitted the strongest spiritual aura. Soon after, these soul-condensing pills were blown away by the strange wind like raindrops at an extremely fast speed. Some of them flew to the Gate of Ghost while some flew to the depths of the desolate space in the palace. The people from Yuanqing Mountain chased after one of the Longan-sized core condensation pills without hesitation. This is a spirit pill. Core condensation pill. Xiantian did not have time to think about where the strange wind came from. His gaze was attracted by the core condensation pills that were scattered in all directions. After so many years, he had obtained many fortuitous encounters and knew about the existence of a few spirit pills. Don't let Yuanqing Mountain have them. Xiantian knew the importance of the core condensation pills. He shouted at Zhang Xiai and the others, "Collect these core condensation pills." Then he chased after Yuanqing Mountain. Li Baibai and the others also saw the spirit pills that were flying out. 3 of them immediately went to collect them while the other 3 continued to suppress Sharuk and Ivan. These 2 were foreign spirit accumulations martial artists. They could not let the core condensation pills fall into their hands. On Jiang Xi's side, the first person to react was not him but Ma Jinhai. Ma Jinhai's attention had been focused on the alchemy cauldron. This was also the initial agreement between him and Yuanqing Mountain. He and Yuanqing Mountain would each take one of the 2 core condensation pills of the highest quality. Therefore, when this happened, he immediately struck out with his palm and stopped fighting Zhang Xiai. Instead, he chased after the Longan-sized core condensation pill. "Do you think I don't exist?" Zhang Xiai moved his feet and directly chased after him. The 2 of them chased after each other. After a while, they arrived at the depths of the barren space in Tomorrow Palace. That Longan-sized soul-solidifying pill had flown to this place and disappeared. No one knew where it had landed. Core condensation pill. My core condensation pill. Ma Jinhai looked for the core condensation pill as if he was possessed. That was the key to quickly increasing his cultivation level. Only when his cultivation level increased would he have a chance to kill Zhang Xiai. Found it. With his spiritual sense and eyes, he almost instantly saw the Longan-sized core condensation pill. Ma Jinhai was overjoyed and wanted to pick it up. Whoosh! However, in the next moment Zhang Xiai arrived. At the same time, a sword beam pierced towards Ma Jinhai. What? So fast? Ma Jinhai's eyes suddenly widened in shock. He had never seen such a fast speed. Even Yuanqing Mountain, who was in the late-stage spirit accumulations, was not as fast as Zhang Xiai. Whoosh! At the critical moment he struck out with his palm and blocked Zhang Xi's sword beam. However, Zhang Xiai did not stop there. The sword behind him had already accumulated power and was ready to strike again. Zhang Xiai, why don't we write off the grudge between us? I don't hate you anymore. Ma Jinhai said anxiously. Are you trying to fool a 3-year-old child? Zhang Xiai smiled and decisively struck out with his abyss condensation sword. Ouch! Zhang Xiai, you will die a horrible death. You will die a horrible death. Ma Jinhai saw that begging for mercy was not going to work. He immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation and struck out with both his palms. Palm prints covered the space and smashed towards riverward like a wave with ferocious momentum. Zhang Xi's expression did not change. Although these palm prints looked powerful, their spiritual power was scattered and not condensed. Their true power was not great. His figure flashed as he brandished his sword, easily destroying these palm prints. Ma Jinhai revealed a look of despair. However, Zhang Xi's heart was as calm as still water. The grudge between him and the Ma family was already irreconcilable. No matter what the other party said, he would not believe it. Solving the threat was the only way. However, at this moment the situation suddenly changed. Chapter 188. Zhang Xiai swung his sword and was about to attack again when he paused. A familiar voice suddenly came from the depths of the bleak and desolate space. Moo moo moo. A strong aura came at the same time. That huge bull-headed figure was also very familiar. It was the bull-headed ghost spirit of the Golden Core stage. Zhang Xiai was shocked. Without thinking, he turned around and fled, abandoning Ma Jinhai, who could be dealt with quickly. The moment he turned around, his eyes caught a glimpse of the Longan-sized spirit pill not far away. He moved his feet and bent down to pick it up. Then the gale true intent exploded and he disappeared from the spot. At the same time, Ma Jinhai also felt the terrifying aura coming from behind him. But before he could react, the bull-headed ghost spirit of the Golden Core stage threw the huge bullhorn trident towards him. Whoosh! The bullhorn trident, which was 10 meters long, pierced through Ma Jinhai. His corpse was left on one of the tridents. Like a skewer, Ma Jinhai's eyes were only left with confusion and indignation as his consciousness dissipated. The master of a 1,000-year reclusive family, a mid-stage spirit vessel expert who stood at the pinnacle of human martial arts, was stabbed to death by a trident. Soon Ma Jinhai's corpse became dry, as if his flesh and blood were sucked dry. The bull-headed ghost spirit flung the corpse to one side. Moo Moo. A mid-stage spirit vessel human kid actually displayed speed comparable to a golden core stage. Let's chase after him and have some fun. And Granny probably won't say anything. I'm just investigating the enemy. The bull-headed ghost spirit named Anyo looked in the direction of Jiang Xi's escape. Its eyes were filled with interest. Its body swayed and disappeared, but its aura followed closely behind Jiang Xi. Compared to Jiang Xi, who was using the Gale True Intent, its speed was slightly faster. This desolate space was huge, and it was so dark that one couldn't see the end of it. The area far exceeded the area of Tomorrow Palace. Needless to say, this was definitely the work of a powerful expert. Jiang Xi ran all the way here, not daring to fly. From the moment he entered the Fengdu secret realm, he had no intention of using his ability to fly. He had seen with his own eyes that the boulder thrown by Xian Tian above the Black River at the beginning was turned into nothingness by an invisible force. If there was a similar danger in the sky of this world, then they could only sigh in sorrow. Moo! The roar of the ox-headed spirit appeared behind Jiang Xi. So fast? Jiang Xi's expression changed. That was already his fastest speed. As expected of the Golden Core stage. Run! Jiang Xi executed the Gale True Intent to the extreme. The gale around him howled, and it was as though he was flashing in and out of space, traversing distance after distance. The Minotaur demon spirit was also in hot pursuit. It kept making strange mooing sounds, and a huge trident appeared in each of its hands. Swoosh! 2 cowhorn tridents were flung towards Jiang Xi, emitting an astonishing shriek. Isn't it in the Evil Heaven Palace? Why are you here? Or is it that there are also Golden Core Minotaur demon spirits and Horseface demon spirits in the Tomorrow Palace? Jiang Xi was a little anxious. He turned around and slashed twice with his sword. The power of the spiritual weapon, Abyss Condensation, was reflected at this moment. Clang! It directly shattered the 2 cowhorn tridents condensed by the gloomy energy. With this force, Jiang Xi dashed forward for a distance. Spiritual weapon. The Minotaur demon spirit's eyes were wide open. Its breathing was rapid, and the black smoke on its body became thicker. This human kid in the spirit nurture stage actually had a spiritual weapon. Even it, a Golden Core stage cultivator, had not used a spiritual weapon. Felt a deep gap. Snatch it. Even if the long sword was not suitable for it, it was still better than the tridents condensed by the gloomy energy. With a spiritual weapon, I can beat Little Ma. Moo! The ox-head ghost spirit roared excitedly and continued to chase after him. The two chased for a long time and came to the depths of the desolate space in the palace. Jiang Xi was shocked to find that he had lost his way. He was originally running towards the ghost path because these spirits seemed to have some kind of restriction and could not leave the palace area. As long as he could escape to the ghost path and rush out of the Bright Heaven Palace, he would be able to escape danger. But for some reason, he ran and ran just now and deviated from the direction. When he reacted, he could no longer see the ghost path. At this time, an area shrouded in gray fog suddenly appeared in front of him. The strange thing was that the gray fog was still, and there was no sign of movement. Intuition told Jiang Xi that that place was very dangerous. Dieter. Jiang Xi's figure flashed and was about to pass through the gray fog area. Whoosh! The wind whistled and for some reason he plunged into the gray fog area. Jiang Xi was puzzled. It was obviously not in this direction. Accompanied by confusion, he disappeared. This is a forbidden area. The Minotaur demon spirit who had chased here suddenly stopped. It also saw the strange gray fog. Why did you come here? It was also very puzzled. Hurry up and leave, hurry up and leave. I hope Granny didn't find out about this. Otherwise, I'll have to face the wall and reflect on my mistakes again. The Minotaur demon spirit's expression changed as if it had caused a disaster. It retreated at its fastest speed. Since it was young, it had been warned not to go near the forbidden area. No matter who entered that forbidden area, they would die. That kid has fallen into the forbidden area and will definitely die. Moo moo, my spirit weapon is also gone. Fuck. Jiang Xi finally said the last word. When he looked around, he found that he was already in the still gray fog. The area covered by the gray fog was also very empty and there was no wind. What was even stranger was that there was no gloomy aura here. He quickly noticed that the ground here was somewhat different. Strange symbols and textures were carved on the ground, emitting an inexplicable charm as if they could suck in his spiritual sense. Jiang Xi was very cautious and did not dare to make any big movements. He carefully observed his surroundings. Suddenly, the still gray fog began to flow slowly, faster and faster at the same time. The symbols and textures on the ground began to glow. With such a change, everyone knew that something bad was going to happen. Run! Jiang Xi's figure flashed, wanting to rush out of the area covered by the gray fog. Bang! However, he hit the edge of the gray fog and was dizzy from the impact. There seemed to be a barrier there trapping him here. He could not get out. Jiang Xi shook his head, and the spirit power in his body circulated faster, trying to rush out again. It was impossible to make him give up. The gray fog flowed faster and faster, constantly churning and rolling, as if it was brewing a huge amount of energy. The symbols and textures on the ground also became brighter. Bang bang bang. In just a few breaths Jiang Xi had tried hundreds of times, but they were all blocked by the invisible barrier. He was already covered in bruises, and blood kept flowing from his mouth. No, I can't be trapped every time I come out. Jiang Xi shook his head with a determined expression. Ignoring the injuries on his body, he wanted to attack the barrier again. However, at this moment, the light of the symbols and textures on the ground seemed to have reached its peak. Buzz! There was a soft sound. The light of the symbols and textures suddenly changed, forming a three-dimensional pattern. A powerful suction force appeared from the three-dimensional pattern. Jiang Xi's figure was directly sucked in. He gritted his teeth and struggled to resist with a ferocious expression, but he found that he could not resist at all. The force was too strong. Then, he was sucked into the three-dimensional pattern. A dazzling light appeared, but it disappeared in an instant. Everything returned to normal. The symbols and textures on the ground did not seem to have changed at all. The gray fog also returned to its motionless state. However, Jiang Xi had disappeared. Chapter 189. Jiang Xi tried his best to calm himself down. The glaring light made him unable to see his surroundings clearly, but he could clearly sense that the space was constantly changing. This made his heart sink. The power of teleportation? Fortunately, in just 2 or 3 breaths, the glaring light disappeared and everything calmed down. Jiang Xi hurriedly looked around and prepared to take action at any time. Oh! He was surprised to find that the symbols and patterns on the ground were still, and the surroundings were filled with static fog. It was exactly the same as the scene just now. I'm still in Tomorrow Palace? Jiang Xi was bewildered. He walked to the edge of the gray fog and tried to reach his hand out. He actually succeeded and passed through the barrier. Jiang Xi was stunned for a moment and was pleasantly surprised. Although he was puzzled by the encounter just now, escaping was the first priority. He took a step out of the gray fog. When he looked up, his expression changed drastically. It's not Tomorrow Palace. He was still in the palace, but this palace was obviously not Tomorrow Palace. The characteristic of Tomorrow Palace was that it was barren, and there was a hidden space inside. Although this palace was similarly majestic, it did not have a similar barren space. It was just a normal hall. Moreover, the building looked extremely dilapidated, as if it had experienced countless years and remained in this era. Even so, Jiang Xi could still see some carved beams and painted rafters and extremely artistic painted patterns. Presumably, if this place was still intact, it would definitely be magnificent. Where is this? Jiang Xi could not help but ask himself. Could it be the next palace of Fengdu Mountain? No, there's no gloomy aura of Fengdu Mountain here. There's only coldness and the temperature is very low. After looking around, Jiang Xi shook his head. The architectural style here was completely different from the palaces of Fengdu Mountain. Instead, it was very similar to the ancient palaces of Xia Kingdom. The buildings here seem to be used for living. I'm in the main hall, and there's a side hall beside it. He did not let himself become flustered. He carefully analyzed and observed and came to some conclusions. How is it? Did you find anything? Suddenly, an ethereal voice sounded in Jiang Xi's ears. Fuck. Jiang Xi jumped in fright. His body suddenly flashed far away. He turned around and saw an old man wearing a simple Taoist robe looking at him with a smile. The old man had white hair and a ruddy complexion, looking like an immortal. However, Zhang Xi did not think that he had met an immortal. In such a dilapidated palace, this old man had appeared out of nowhere. He was most likely a ghost. Who are you? Zhang Xi stood far away and stared at the man as if he was facing a great enemy. The old man did not mind Zhang Xi's attitude. He waved the horsetail whisk in his hand casually and smiled. I'm Taoist Gu Ming from the Purple Firmament sect of the Tao Alliance. People call me Taoist Gu. May I know how I should address you? Zhang Xi said his name, but he still remained vigilant. This Taoist Gu looked kind, but his words were very strange. What's the Tao Alliance? What is the Purple Heaven sect? He had never heard of this before. Taoist Ji's expression changed when he heard this, and he hurriedly asked, You haven't heard of the Tao Alliance? Zhang Xi shook his head. I knew it. I knew it. 10,000 years have passed. Things have changed with the passage of time. Taoist Gu had a complicated expression. He sorted out his emotions and then explained to Zhang Xi. In the vast universe there are infinite star regions. There are as many races as there are stars. The human race is one of the races that stand at the top of the universe. The territories occupied by the human race are controlled by the Tao Alliance. The Purple Heaven sect is one of the major forces of the Tao Alliance. The star region that we control is called the Purple Heaven region. Zhang Xi listened carefully, and he became more and more shocked. These words overturned his worldview. The Tao Alliance. The Purple Heaven sect. The Purple Heaven region. If that was the case, this Taoist Gu had a powerful background. He did not seem like someone from Earth. When he thought of this, Zhang Xi's heart suddenly skipped a beat. If Taoist Gu was not from Earth, then where was he now? Was he still on Earth? Taoist priest, where is this? This is the vast cold palace. Oh, it was called that 10,000 years ago. I'm not sure if it's still called that now. Young friend Zhang Xi? Taoist Gu called out a few times. However, Zhang Xi was stunned. He did not hear the latter part of Gu Ming's words at all. The vast cold palace. He was in the vast cold palace now? Wasn't that on the moon? How could he go back if he was on the moon? Also, was he on the first moon? Or the second moon? Zhang Xi's heart was in a mess. Young friend Zhang Xi? Taoist Gu came in front of Zhang Xi and called out a few more times. Zhang Xi came back to his senses. Seeing that Taoist Gu was so close to him, he hurriedly moved further away. Keep a safe distance. After saying that, he looked around and used the true intent of Gale. He flew into the air and flew to the front of the palace door. There was a similarly broken staircase in front of the palace. He stood at the top of the staircase in silence. He saw that this palace was suspended in the air. The ground below was bumpy and extremely desolate. It was the terrain of the moon's surface. However, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that he saw a huge blue planet in the horizon. It was very familiar. It was Earth. He was indeed not on Earth. Taoist Gu did not rush him. He just stood there and stroked his beard with a light smile. Especially after seeing Zhang Xi use the true intent of Gale, he nodded lightly and smiled even more. Zhang Xi was silent for a moment, flew back and asked, Taoist priest, how can I go back? He knew that the key to everything was this mysterious Taoist Gu in front of him. Taoist Gu flicked his horsetail whisk lightly but did not answer directly. Instead he smiled and said, I naturally have a way. However, I have a few questions that I want to ask you first. Please ask, Taoist priest. Young friend Zhang Xi, how old are you this year? 21 years old, 1 year old. What you comprehended is the true intent of Gale. Taoist priest, isn't it a little impolite to inquire about other people's strength so directly? Haha, I know even if you don't say it. When you were flying just now, the wind couldn't fool me. Why ask when you know? Taoist Gu pretended to ponder and muttered to himself, cultivating to the mid-stage of spirit vessel at the age of 21. This kind of talent is only below average in the Tao Alliance. It's impossible to enter my Purple Heaven sect. However, to be able to comprehend the true intent of Tao at the spirit vessel stage and have the highest level of comprehension, such a situation is really rare. Strange. The first half of this sentence made Jiang Xi feel a little unconvinced. A 21-year-old mid-stage spirit vessel stage was the #1 genius on Earth. How could it be considered below average in the eyes of this old Taoist? Was it that bad? Are you unconvinced? Taoist Ge smiled. Jiang Xi nodded honestly. Taoist Ge shook his head and said seriously, among the 3 gates and 6 sects of the Tao Alliance, there are countless people who have reached the spirit vessel stage at your age. If you haven't reached the golden core stage before the age of 20, you are not qualified to be called an elite. You can't even be considered a genius. In the vast universe, there are some peerless geniuses who are even at the golden core stage when they are born. Are you convinced now that I've said it?